Hello, everybody. Welcome to the meeting, and I will invite Pastor Bodie to say a prayer.
Good evening. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we present before you today our esteemed elected officials of this borough. As they gather for this meeting this evening, I just ask right now, O God, that you grant them your wisdom to make decisions that are fair and just. Give them clarity of thought, patience in their discussions, and respect for one another's perspectives. As they deliberate on budgets, policies, infrastructure, public safety, and the many needs of our residents, we ask that you grant them clarity of mind and unity of purpose. Help them to remember that behind every agenda item are real people, families, workers, children, business owners, whose daily lives are affected by the decisions made in this room. Heavenly Father, guard them against division that harms and pride that blinds. Where there are differing viewpoints, help them to listen carefully and speak graciously. And I pray that their discussions will be marked by respect and their conclusions by integrity. We pray for the well-being of this borough. Bless our communities of Bournemouth, Elstree, Potters Bar, Radlett, and Shenley. Protect our first responders and public servants. Strengthen our schools and local businesses, and provide for those who are struggling. May this borough be a place where justice is upheld, opportunities are available, and neighbors care for one another. As they begin this meeting, I pray and commit them to you this evening. I pray that you will give them a joy in serving this community and grant them peace in all their endeavors. I pray this in Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Thanks, Pastor Bodie. Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome everybody to this meeting of Hertsmere Borough Council, including those in the public gallery. By way of introduction, my name is Councillor Alpha Bird Collins, and I'm the mayor of Hertsmere, and I'm going to be chairing this meeting. Prior to continuing, please can I ask everyone to make sure that your phone is turned off or switched on to silent. Thank you. We can do some housekeeping. At the rear there, we have 2 outlets. If there's any fire alarm or so, there are 2 exits on the outside and also 2 on the other side here. And no one is allowed to come back. We can all gather into the parking area, and you are only told to come over by the officials of the council. Other than that, you stay away from the building. Under such circumstances, no one is allowed to return to the building. The assembly point of the civic office car park is in the area next on the outside there. The first item of business for council this evening is agenda item number 1, which is apologies and communications. Is there any apologies, please? Oh, yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have apologies tonight from Councillor Paul Hosson-Jones, Councillor Abhishek Sachdev, and Councillor Clarkson.
Okay. Thanks all so much. Please have that noted. Oh, yes.
Mr. Mayor, we also have apologies from Councillor Ponder and Councillor Nicholas.
Okay, thanks all so much. That will be noted. Is there any other apologies? Okay, there is any. Thanks ever so much. Okay. You will know, members, that robust but civil debate is the essence of democracy. The respect conduct in the chamber is of key importance to the good reputation of our council. I will be keen to ensure that debate is civil and timely throughout the evening, and will ask your support in this respect. There are 2 points in our procedure rules to avoid any misunderstandings by members. A, if you rise on a point of order to speak, I will immediately ask you to identify which procedure rule or law has been broken in your opinion. If you cannot answer this question to my satisfaction, I will ask you to sit down, as it is not a point of order. B, if you wish to make a point of personal explanation, this only applies if you have already spoken in the current debate and feel that a member has misunderstood something that you said in that debate. If you rise on this point, you must have spoken in the debate. I will ask you to state specifically which part of your speech has been misunderstood. And if you cannot answer this, I will ask you to sit down. As before, we will be using the electronic voting system. Councillors, can you also please remember to switch off your microphone when you have finished speaking? This allows the webcast camera to automatically move on to the next speaker. We move further to agenda item number 2. That is declaration of interest. Do any members have any interest to declare? Yes, Councillor Newmark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to declare another non-pecuniary interest in agenda item 18.1, which will be considered in part 2, relating to the Elstree Film Studios Limited update. I'm declaring that interest as council appointed Director and Chair of Elstree Film Studios Limited, and I will be relying upon my standing dispensation from the Chief Executive to speak and participate in that debate, but I'm not intending on voting in that debate.
Thanks so much. Please have that noted. Yeah, please, Councillor Giorgio.
Thank you. I'd like to declare a non-pecuniary interest in Inspiral.
Please stand.
I'd like to declare a non-pecuniary interest in Inspiral as a secretary for Barracuda Swimming Club. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Clapper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to declare a non-pecuniary interest in the Elstree Studios item. I've sought dispensation from the Chief Executive and have been granted the ability to participate in the debate, but not to vote. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to propose a pecuniary interest as an employee of Inspiral.
Yeah, Councillor Allen, please.
Yes, I'll declare the same interest in relation to Elstree Film Studios, as colleagues have already mentioned, as I am also a council-appointed director of EFS, and I have been given the same dispensation as colleagues have previously mentioned.
Yeah, Councillor Butler.
Your hand up, Frey. Do him next. He's been here for a while. Anyway, sorry, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. A non-pecuniary interest on working as self-employed for Inspiral. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, same interest in relation to the EFS item. Non-pecuniary interest as a council-appointed director. Do have dispensation to stay in and speak on this item, although I won't be voting. Thank you.
Councillor Bride, yeah, please.
Thank you very much indeed. Yes, I'd like to declare another pecuniary interest as a council-appointed director of Elstree Film Studios Limited in relation to item 18.1, part 2, Elstree Film Studios update, and any other mention that the leader may make elsewhere. I have a dispensation following a request to the Chief Executive to be able to speak on this item, but I shall not vote.
Okay, thanks so much. I think all of the interests have been noted. Okay, thanks so much. Okay, then we'll move over to agenda item number 3, the minutes. Minutes of the meeting of the council meetings held on November and January. These have been circulated. There can be no debate on the minutes. Only accuracy may be questioned. May I sign them as an accurate record? Okay. Thanks. Thanks. I will sign the minutes at the end of the meeting. Thanks so much. We'll move over to agenda item number 4, the announcement by the mayor. On the 27th of January, I was honored to host our Holocaust Memorial Day event, an important and moving event in the civic calendar. This year's theme was Bridging Generations, a reminder that the responsibility of remembrance doesn't end with the survivors. Thank you to all that attended and everyone who worked to make the event a success. A special thank you to our guest speaker, Marilyn Turgle, who gave an emotional account of her father's experiences during the Holocaust. I have been delighted to attend several community events in the past month, including a platinum anniversary celebration at Parkside Community Primary School and a performance from Margaret Howard Theatre School in Radlett. I was lucky enough to be invited to the installation of the Archbishop of Westminster, and I have hosted visits from the Liberian ambassador to the UK and the High Sheriff of Hertfordshire in the last few weeks, both of whom told me they enjoyed their visit to the borough. This is very heartwarming. Members, as this is the budget meeting, there are no public or member questions. We'll move over to agenda item number 5, which is the decision report, consolidated constitutional changes as of February 2026. I shall call on Councillor Newmark to move the recommendations as set out in the report. Councillor Newmark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise to propose the recommendations as set out in the report and as amended by the supplementary paper on agenda item 5 that was circulated in advance of the meeting. Effectively, there are 2 planks to the constitutional changes before us this evening. The first of which is to deal with what has now become a bit of a regular kerfuffle when we run out of time to discuss key items after hitting the 10:30 backstop point. There was originally a suggestion that came out of CMDP to continue meetings through to 11 rather than 10:30. Understandably, that wasn't very popular with some members, but after giving it some thought and reflection, we've actually come up with a much improved solution that might actually lead to us finishing meetings slightly earlier on some occasions, because what it will do is it will give meetings the opportunity to continue to 10:30 after the 10 o'clock stop point, as we currently do, but members will also be asked a second question as to whether or not they wish to conclude a particular item or group of items, such as motions on notice or and opposition business, before the guillotine procedure is imposed. So it will enable us to conclude items that have been started. It will enable us to take a political choice to continue with particular motions of great consequence. And by just selecting the relevant agenda items, it might be that we finish at 10:10 or 10:15, and that would be a real turn up for the books. The second set of changes in here, which were discussed at length at the meeting of CMDP, were in line with government requirements that we bolster the training, development and technical ability of members of planning committee to make compliant determinations at planning meetings. We haven't proposed what some authorities have done and made it mandatory and the subject of sanctions if members do not attend, members of the planning committee do not attend technical briefings. However, we have proposed moving to a default position, that default being that unless there is a very good reason, members should and indeed must attend those technical briefings so that they are properly informed. And personally, I can't see why anybody making a planning determination would not want to ensure they had the maximum possible technical information and briefing. We do appreciate that in some circumstances last-minute emergencies come up, which is why this makes provision for members who are unable to attend a planning technical briefing to fulfil the requirement by getting an up-to-date briefing from officers even as late as the day of the main planning committee meeting itself. As I say, I can't see any reason why members wouldn't want to place themselves in the position where they have the best possible set of information at their fingertips to be able to make the best possible planning determinations on behalf of local residents. So I commend both sets of constitutional changes to members this evening.
Okay, thanks. I'll call on Councillor Shenton to second the motion.
May I reserve my right to speak, please?
Mr Mayor, at this point, may I please rise to propose an amendment which will be on the screen, which we are hoping will avoid an all or nothing outcome on this item. So this is a procedural amendment that we can see on the screen. This will allow the Council to consider the proposed changes to Part 4.1 on closure times separately from the proposed changes to Part 5.7 relating to planning matters, which will be reported back to CMDP for further development. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I rise to second those proposed amendments.
So much, that is noted. I'll call on Councillor Gray, please. Are there any speakers on this amendment? Councillor Newmark.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I rise to oppose this amendment. As I said earlier, I cannot fathom why, unless members see the planning committee as a political football, they would object to a scenario that would ensure those people determined with making significant and important planning decisions on behalf of the people of this borough would not attend a briefing to ensure that they have the technical knowledge around those particular planning proposals. Now, they say in their amendment that what they want to do is refer this back to CMDP for further discussion. Well, we had a lengthy discussion about this at CMDP. It was made absolutely clear that people could come forward with further thoughts. And as I've already outlined, in the part of this report that deals with the other plank of our constitutional changes around closure times, people did come forward between CMDP and now with better proposals. We accepted those proposals and we changed them. What we're seeing here is a filibustering tactic and a delaying tactic to try and ensure that the next couple of planning meetings won't have the benefit of members who have been mandated to attend a technical briefing. This amendment is nothing more than an excuse for placing our planning committee at risk of making poor decisions. Why would anybody want to do that? If you genuinely have improved suggestions, then you can bring them forward to CMDP anyway. But at the moment, the proposal on the table represents the best possible opportunity to make the best possible planning decisions for the time being. And I seriously question the motivations, Councillor Sullivan, of anybody who would oppose that simple, straightforward measure to add value to the way we take those decisions on behalf of local residents.
Yeah. Yes. Is there any other one speaker? Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise. Yeah, I understand. I rise to speak on the amendment as a member of the Planning Committee with grave concern about the implications that the administration's amendments to the Constitution would have on this planning authority. Mr. Mayor, I take planning technical meetings very seriously. I make every effort to attend them and do find them a very valuable use of my time in helping me to understand planning applications better. However, the proposed amendments to our Constitution appear to totally misunderstand the purpose of PTMs. These briefings are an opportunity for members to seek clarification on technical matters raised in the reports. That's it. In these meetings, members should not be exposed to information that can't be made public, with the very rare exception of privileged legal advice. It should be possible to ask any question asked at PTM in the public meeting. All relevant planning information available should already be reflected in the reports, and anything raised in the PTM that should be clarified in the report should end up in the update sheet. Therefore, given that all relevant planning matters should be considered already in the report or the update sheet or the officer's slides, there should be no reason why such questions cannot be raised at the public meeting. I don't accept that discussions at PTM should be confidential simply because it's an opportunity to raise technical queries. And I therefore believe that if we are expected to attend PTMs, then they should be open to the public as other councils do, in the interest of transparency, as clearly important information is to be raised which will influence how members vote. I then consider the requirement for members to defend appeals instead of officers. It's claimed that officers are unable to defend members' reasoning as a result of their professional obligations. Sure, they have to be honest about their professional opinion, our officers. However, that doesn't mean that they're unable to defend members' justified reasoning for refusing planning applications. If members have given material planning considerations for refusal, then officers can defend that. The administration is proposing that we blur the lines between decision makers and advocates. This is a very dangerous road to go down and fundamentally undermines the impartiality of members.
Your time is up, Councillor Brisky. Yeah. Okay, I'll recognize Councillor Rosehill.
Is this on the amendment? Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, Councillor Green. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I wasn't going to speak on this because there's literally nothing wrong with giving us the best method of making a good decision. But I cannot sit here and have Councillor Brisky lecture me and all of us yet again on democracy and the method by which we debate planning applications, because he, along with a few others, quite often plays fast and loose, let's be honest, with the whole process, uses it as a political whipping tool for this council, uses it as a method of debating whether or not he agrees with government policy, which, as I've said more than once, is absolutely nothing to do with the planning application in front of him. We have technical meetings, which aren't essential in other councils, but we have them so that we can ask things like, how near is this window to that? How much grass is this versus that? If you really think the public want to hear that, then why don't you come to planning committees, the technical ones, ask relevant questions, and then you can post online, as other people do, what the answers were. Except what we should be doing is giving every single person in this room who cares about planning, which basically everyone should, we should give everyone who sits on the committee the very best option for making the best decision. And if you want to stand by your decisions, I don't see why you shouldn't have to stand in front of a barrister and defend yourself. It is not fair to have a go at officers who give the very best advice they can with all the information they can. It is not fair to blame barristers who cost thousands of pounds because they tell you things you don't want to hear. We are charged with making the very best decisions we can, and this amendment gives us that option. If you don't want to be on the planning committee, you don't have to be.
I'll call upon Councillor Gray as the last speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't going to speak on this amendment, but after Councillor Brisky's diatribe that we listened to there for 2 minutes, I felt I had to. Councillor Brisky, you fully have to understand, if you're prepared to second or propose a motion to go against officers' advice with some of the ludicrous decisions that have come out of planning recently, then you need to have the cojones to stand in front of a judge and explain your reasons as to why you went against that officer's advice. It's not for officers who are professional people to try and detangle or stand there and try to justify some of the crazy decisions that the planning committee has made in recent months. That is something that you must be prepared to do should you want to sit on on the planning committee. Plannings and technical meetings are very important, and actually mandating that members turn up, engage with the process, ask those technical questions, understand issues that they may not have a full grasp on, because it is very technical sometimes, and we need to understand and learn, because it's part of learning. We don't actually walk into this role knowing very much about planning. We spend our time learning and developing our skills within the planning department. So it's vital that planning technical meetings are attended. I know Councillor Amron and myself had several frustrated conversations about the lack of attendance at technical meetings and questions asked in planning meetings that could easily be addressed at a technical meeting, and actually give the officers time to give us the full response to those questions that we ask. It's not fair to kind of talk about the size, width, depth of a house and then insist we want the volume calculations right there and then, like you did at the last planning meeting. It's just not acceptable. Stand by your decisions and be brave enough to defend them.
Yes. Okay, thanks ever so much for your various contributions. This matter is now open for debate. Oh, please. Yeah. No need for it. Just cool down, you know? Yeah. Now we're going to vote on this amendment, please. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, please.
Can I just say...
No, excuse me.
Point of order?
Please. Please sit down. Please sit down.
This is totally wrong. It's against democracy.
Yeah. Yes. We're going to vote on this.
The motion falls. The amendment falls.
The amendment has fallen. Okay. Pardon me, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have a 1-minute recess so I can get my chain because I came in. You excuse me. We're going to continue the debate on the substantive motion. Yeah, please, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. After careful consideration, it will be no surprise that we cannot support the recommendations as a single package, but we could support elements of them if they were taken in parts, but unfortunately that's been declined. In particular, we welcome the administration's agreement to the alteration under Part 4. That change introduces greater flexibility into how meetings are managed and reflects concerns that were generally listened to. And on that basis, we are content to support that element. However, our concerns remain about both the pace and substance of the wider proposals, especially those relating to planning. These changes were introduced to an additional CMDP meeting in February, and no clear or compelling urgency has been demonstrated. Our actual meeting was scheduled for March. They represent significant amendments to established governance arrangements, and they deserve proper time, reflection and scrutiny. With the planning technical meeting, members have raised repeated concerns about reports arriving at short notice, sometimes incomplete or containing errors. Planning decisions have serious implications for residents and applicants alike, and members must be properly supported with timely papers, accurate information and appropriate site visits if necessary, so that decisions are sound and defensible. Simply making attendance mandatory doesn't address those underlying issues. Attendance isn't the problem. My team turn up. The issue is preparation, clarity and ensuring members are properly equipped to do the job properly. At the scheduled March meeting, we hope to bring forward a range of constructive proposals aimed at improving clarity, consistency and overall quality of planning decision making, and we look forward to presenting those in a collaborative spirit. But the report in front of us is not just about PTM, it's about appeals, conduct of members and officers. And at CMDP, these reports were given to us in Part 2 with 3 days' notice, which does not allow a thorough amount of time for group debate and discussion back to CMDP. This extra meeting should have laid down ideas that we could have then brought these all back to the March meeting and come to really sensible outcomes as a collective. So, Mr Mayor, while we are prepared to support certain recommendations if they were taken in parts, we can't support the whole paper, mainly due to many of the planning changes in this document as they stand. Thank you.
Call on Councillor Gray, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And Councillor Sullivan, I think it's worth reminding you that if they are Part 2 papers, they are not for group discussion. I welcome these recommendations because they do something fundamentally important. They strengthen the clarity, accountability and effectiveness of how this council operates. Our constitution is not an abstract document. They are the frameworks that ensure decisions are made properly, transparently and in the best interests of our residents. What this report does is bring together a series of sensible, practical changes that collectively modernise and strengthen that framework. Those changes are brought about by a cross-party working group called CMDP. Councillor Sullivan sits on that and has her voice. There are 2 areas in particular that demonstrate the strategic importance of these changes. Firstly, the improvements relating to planning governance are especially significant. Planning decisions are amongst the most sensitive and impactful decisions this council make. They shape the future of our borough, our communities and our environment. Strengthening clarity around planning processes, members' roles and decision-making helps protect the integrity of the system. It ensures decisions are robust and defensible and trusted by the public. These are essential, not just for transparency, but for maintaining confidence in local democracy itself. Secondly, the flexibility of the end time for full council may appear as a procedural issue, but it reflects something deeper. It ensures meetings are structured, disciplined and accessible. It improves the effectiveness of debate. I'm not sure where happy birthdays comes into that. Supports members' well-being and ensures this council's conduct is in business and professional and an effective way. Taken together, these changes strengthen governance as a whole. They ensure the council operates with clarity, supports good decision-making and ensures we remain accountable, capable of delivering effectively for our residents. For those reasons, I am going to be supporting this tonight. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll call on Councillor Rose Hill, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I will not be supporting this report, so I just want to be pretty clear on what it's about here. So we're increasing the time that's allocated for full council. We're formalising the planning technical meeting, and we're also increasing the number of planning committee meetings to 17. So I'm going to start with full council first. More time doesn't mean better democracy, and from experience, whether it's listening to Councillor Newmark as opposition or leader, the likely outcome is more grandstanding, longer self-indulgent monologues, and less focus. Few residents are logged in right now this evening, if at all. They don't want marathon speeches, they want decision-making. They want scrutiny that is sharp and relevant, not extended sessions or 45-minute leader reports. Time should be used far more effectively than it is now. Expanding the window without addressing how time is used risks actually encouraging more theatre and not better governance. So on the planning committee, the proposal to increase to 17 raises a more serious question. Why do we need more planning committee meetings? Is it because we're drowning in speculative applications? Is it because without an adopted local plan and with the ongoing threat of Labour's grey belt reclassification that developers are testing this borough over and over again? If so, that's not a scheduling issue, that's strategic failure. When a council does not have a robust, defensible local plan or even a policy in place, it invites speculative pressure. Residents are already paying the price in anxiety and the loss of confidence locally. So instead of adjusting the calendar to cope, we should be asking how we allowed ourselves to get in this place in the first place. It's purely an exercise of shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic, and for those reasons, I won't be supporting it. I just want to add, I thought it was very, very nasty to attack Councillor Brisky for some of his views, particularly as a dedicated councillor. I think stating that it was a political football, it was used as a political football for years by yourselves. Please don't be hypocritical.
The time is up. Yeah. Yeah, Councillor Brisky, please.
Mr. Mayor, I will... Okay, this actually... Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was trying to get everything I wanted to get out, but unfortunately I ran out of time, so I'm grateful for a second opportunity to speak. But I would like to firstly respond to a couple of the points raised by Councillors Green and Gray. As Councillor Green knows, I make every effort to attend planning technical meetings. I believe I've only missed one for a work event, and fortunately in that event it was a very straightforward agenda, so I did not need any further clarification. But I do agree, they are very important meetings and I do take them very seriously. However, I did not get to say everything I wanted to say about the proposed amendments to the Constitution on appeals. And this is very worrying for me, Mr. Mayor, because this will increase the risk of losing appeals. Now, members will be aware that in our Constitution, it specifically says that the role of officers is to implement lawful decisions of members of the Council. Therefore, if members make lawful decisions in line with policy and other material planning considerations, then there is absolutely no reason why officers cannot sit in this chamber at appeal and defend that decision. Mr. Mayor, if we find that appeals are being defended less well, then we know what the outcome will be. It will cost this council millions of pounds. The designation of this planning authority in special measures will become inevitable. And as a responsible opposition, we cannot support that. So, Mr. Mayor, in its attempt to make members more hesitant in refusing planning applications, this administration is going to find that these constitutional changes will backfire spectacularly. I dread the day that I stand here and tell them, I told you so.
I'll call upon Councillor Shenton. He reserved his right to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just pick up on a point that Councillor Brisky made. I'm not on the planning committee, but I have substituted a few times. And it was the very same Councillor Brisky who got up and said, I don't mind if it goes to a planning appeal, to a planning application, which will cost us hundreds of thousands of pounds to defend. First of all, I will address the closure time. I think this is an excellent compromise between the idea of extending to 11 o'clock and a practical way of completing the business. There are people here, unfortunately for them, who have to have a job and get up at 9 o'clock the following morning. I'm fortunately not in that, or earlier. So just going on till 11 o'clock or whatever is probably not acceptable. However, this is a very sound compromise. On planning, we all know that sometimes people spring questions without giving officers adequate time to research and answer those questions. By insisting that people go to planning technical or an alternative, which is normally available, they can answer those questions and give those officers time to answer them properly. So a genuine attempt to get better planning decisions, to stop losing planning appeals and to complete business on time would be to accept these recommendations from CMDP. Thank you.
I'll call on Councillor Newmark to sum up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. She says there are no clear or compelling reasons for the urgency, and I'm wondering where she's been in recent weeks. We had a review visit from our LGA peer team who made their views of the way things are moving at Planning Committee very clear. We have had a report from auditors, which Councillor Sussman and Councillor Hodgson-Jones correctly said was a report containing serious and compelling advice last night, which devotes a page and a half to the need for a planning committee to make sound decisions and the need for this authority to move towards a scenario where we are not at constant threat of designation. We had advice at CMDP from our Deputy Chief Executive, one of the most senior planning experts in the country, making it absolutely clear that under the Planning Professionals Code of Conduct, it was not acceptable to place planning officers in a position where they are expected to defend positions that they disagree with professionally at a planning inquiry. And, you know, Councillor Brisker's remarks really beg the question as to who's really leading the thinking of the group opposite on this. Is it Councillor Sullivan and Councillor Cohen, or is it Councillor Brisky, who clearly wants to promote unsound decisions by our planning committee, wants to run away from the consequences at inquiries and leave local people to pay the resulting costs?
Thanks so much for your contribution. Members, members, are we ready to vote? Okay. Well, the motion has been carried. We shall move over to agenda item number 6, the council budget of 2026 and 27. This is a joint debate. Members, I have spoken with the group leaders, and we will be holding a joint debate on items 6.1 to 6.4 of the agenda. These are 6.1, pay award and pay policy statement of 2026 and 2027, and 6.2, settling the capital budget of 2025, 26, 2028, and 2029. And 6.3, that is setting the revenue budget 2026, 2027. And finally, 6.4, the council tax setting and collecting fund levies of 2026, 2027 of Hertsmere Borough Council, parish, and town councils. This is because they are all linked. We will be giving 15 minutes to the finance portfolio holder to open the item. Each of the larger parties will have 10 minutes for their spokesman. This will also be 5 minutes for the smaller group party leaders. All other members who wish to speak will be given 3 minutes each. Councillor Shenton will then have 5 minutes to sum up, and we will then take each of the votes separately. On to Councillor Shenton, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last year, you may remember, we chose to consolidate what had been individual debates on the pay award, the setting of the capital budget, the setting of the revenue budget, and the setting of the council tax. That was seen as a positive change in an otherwise fraught evening. So we will be following the good part of that precedent. Each item will be voted on separately, of course. I must start by thanking the Head of Finance and Finance staff for their tremendous efforts in putting this budget together. For a number of reasons, both external and internal, this year has been very tough. The team has, as ever, risen to the challenge, and our financial outlook is looking pretty good in the context, of course, of the government giving us less money. To start with, agenda item 6.1, the pay award and pay policy statement. Hertsmere is not party to the National Joint Committee Agreement on Pay. Excuse me. Which in practice means that we implement our pay award much earlier. This is generally a good thing, but there is a downside, which is that we don't know what the NJC settlement will be when we set ours. Last year, the Council awarded staff a 3% rise that ended up 0.2% below the NGC. The Personnel Committee met on the 2nd of February and have recommended a pay award of 4% for all staff, so slightly above the relevant rate of inflation. As we know, we used the September CPI to measure annual inflation, and last year that was 3.8%. I fully support the recommendation of the Personnel Committee, especially as I expect that 4% will be greater than the NJC eventually awards, which should at least bring us back in line over the 2-year period. Pay represents the majority of the council spending, about 52%. So a pay rise in excess of the 2.99% will be challenging. 2.99%, of course, is the maximum that this council tax is allowed to go up by without a referendum. More of that in agenda item 7. Moving to the capital and revenue budgets. Every year seems to bring its own new challenges. We have long been promised an end to single-year settlements, and having a multi-year deal allows authorities to plan and set appropriate priorities with some confidence. This year we've had the fair funding review. That was always going to challenge authorities like ours in Southern Shire counties, and we accept that, but the implementation from central government has been chaotic. For many years, government has announced a provisional settlement just before Christmas, then responded to the inevitable howls by improving the deal to a small number of adversely affected councils in the final settlement, leaving most to get on with finalising their budgets. The way the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government has managed the fair funding review has been shockingly incompetent. Whilst our own overall funding has fallen, the consolidation of business rate growth into our base allowed us to make sensible plans. It was then suggested that they'd made an error and we wouldn't be keeping half of the retained growth. That's nearly £1 million to just magically account for between January and now. I have to make a huge distinction here between national and local politics. The leader of the council, Councillor Newmark, used his status as DCN finance spokesman and personal access to ministers, plus his substantially greater understanding of local government finance than them, to explain the realities of their suggestion. Consequently, our final settlement has turned out to be slightly better than the provisional one. Credit where it is due, and much credit is due to Jeremy. And whilst on the subject of incompetence in government, lest we forget, I must remind the members to my left of their support for Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng. Surely the most incompetent double act in the history of British politics. And to the folks behind me whose parties just welcomed former Chancellor Nadeem Zahawi to its ranks, Rishi Sunak sacked him because he was so dodgy, even for the Conservative government. The Council's capital programme is a rolling programme, with most projects going over more than one financial year. It is usual for budgets to be revised, and the Asset Management Panel reviews existing and new projects. The revised capital programme shows a total of 6.5 million of new schemes approved by Cabinet this year. The details are shown in Table 2 on page 83 of the agenda. The capital outturn against this year's capital programme shows slippage of 14.6 million, underspends of 982,000 and overspends of 422,000. A total of 14.8 million in new capital bids is shown on Table 5 on page 86. January's Cabinet agreed to fund an additional 80,000 for street cleaning vehicles and an additional 50,000 for community enforcement vans, making our high streets both cleaner and safer. The draft capital programme has been considered by the Policy Review Committee and then by Cabinet before coming to this meeting of full council. After many years of single-year settlements, this year a new funding arrangement known as fair funding has been introduced. A number of separate grants have been consolidated into the council's base budget, making comparisons with the current to previous years very hard. Core spending power, CSP, has been simplified and a number of separate streams incorporated into it. Crucially, this includes retained business rates growth. In Hertsmere, existing funding levels were more than 115% of the fair funding assessment, which results in a 95% funding guarantee, so in effect means that Hertsmere loses 5% of its existing funding. The retention of business rate growth and consolidation into our funding base is actually just letting us keep the money that we had last year, but that's better than not keeping it. Table 4A on page 117 shows a comparison between 2024-5 and 2028-29. This applies the new funding rules to previous year's figures in order to make the comparison more clear. There was no fair funding allocation this year or last. In it, we can see that CSP falls between this year and in each of the remaining years of this council. So whilst we can be enormously relieved that we have been able to retain all of our business rates growth, council tax and other revenues will make up an ever greater share of Hertsmere's funding. Despite all this, this is a good settlement. We know where we stand and can produce balanced budgets for the remainder of our time. The retention of business rate growth, as well as re-evaluation of pension contributions, mean that we can balance our budgets without having to cut back services. As has been the case for the last 2 years, we are increasing our spending on services to our residents and keeping our council tax below inflation. I recommend this motion. Thank you.
Thanks ever so much. I'll call on Councillor Newmark here, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Newmark, you have 10 minutes and also...
sorry, Mr. Mayor. I rise to second the budget proposals and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Councillor Sullivan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know your eyes do not deceive all of you. The opposition budget speech this year will not be delivered with the fiscal wit of Councillor Sachdev or with the smooth vocal tones of Councillor Hodgson-Jones, so don't sound too disappointed. However, our group understands the importance of these budgets. We have taken advice from our hugely skilled team and we have worked together to help verbalise these points in a way that reflects that expertise. And what I can do is provide an authentic summary from the perspective of a Hertsmere taxpayer and from the perspective of a resident looking at this budget and asking what it means for them. Because when residents look at the decisions before us tonight, they're not thinking in terms of capital and revenue budgets. They're asking something far simpler and far more important. Can this council actually deliver what it promises? And can residents afford the risk being taken on their behalf? That is the question we have used to judge these budgets. And having studied both reports carefully, we do have serious concerns. Taken together, these budgets stretch delivery capacity, rely on optimistic assumptions, and ask residents to shoulder too much financial risk at the wrong time. and that is why we cannot support them. Let me begin with the capital programme. We've been asked to approve a 4-year capital programme approaching £40 million. That is a substantial level of investment. And with investment must become realism about what this council can actually deliver. The report itself shows the challenge. Against a 2025-26 capital budget of around £15 million, the council has struggled to deliver that programme in full, and that matters. Because tonight we're being asked to move from a programme of around £15 million, which has already proven difficult to deliver, to one approaching £40 million over the coming years. Residents, like me, do not need a financial qualification to see the problem. If we are struggling to deliver a £15 million budget programme, why would it be sensible to commit to almost 3 times that amount? This is not a criticism of officers, they are clearly working incredibly hard. This is a question of capacity, realism and responsibility. Capital programmes must be built around what can actually be delivered, not what looks impressive on paper. Otherwise, slippage becomes structural, costs rise, and confidence erodes. There is also clear financial risk from borrowing. The capital programme shows a capital financing requirement of nearly £21 million. And that figure matters because it represents the council's underlying need to borrow. Right now, interest rates are high. It's harder for councils to borrow money, and councils across the country are being warned about taking on too much debt. Because of this, it doesn't make sense to take on borrowing at this time. Borrowing is not free money. It creates long-term pressure on the revenue budget, pressure that will ultimately be felt by residents, either through higher taxation or reduced services. Residents expect caution when financial conditions are uncertain, and this programme does the opposite. I also want to be very clear about funds in settlements. The funds in settlement from the Labour government is effectively recycled money, and as Councillor Shenton has just said tonight, the government is actually giving us less money overall. It is money that we have already paid in tax, reimagined and returned through the system, and residents do not see it as new money. They see it as their own money being redistributed through layers of government. And that makes it even more important that local councils spend that funding with discipline, transparency and clear delivery plans. I want to turn now to priorities and fairness across our borough. The capital programme includes significant new bids, £6 million for Aycliffe Community Centre and £3 million for a medical facility at Paxton Court. And these are proposals that concern us at this time, and they concern many residents too. People are asking how such a large sum could be set aside for what will not be a huge community centre. And they're asking fair questions about the proposed medical facility when we have no written commitment from the NHS confirming that the facilities we are planning to build will actually be used. But we do support projects that residents have fought for locally, such as Newbury's Car Park, Aberford Park and other genuine community priorities. And residents want to see investment in their communities, and we want to see that too. But capital investment cannot simply be a collection of good ideas. It has to be based on a clear plan, not pie-in-the-sky figures, not optimistic projections that risk becomes tomorrow's financial pressure. Because residents do not judge capital programmes by how ambitious they sound. They judge them by whether projects start when promised, are delivered on time, and provide real lasting benefit to their communities that we're all meant to serve. There is also a wider risk, the difference between announcing investment and actually delivering it. It's easy to announce capital schemes in multi-year plans. It's hard to secure planning approvals, complete procurement, manage contractor capacity and deliver construction on time and within budget. If too many projects compete for the same delivery resources, everything slows down. That is how capital slippage becomes permanent rather than occasional. So turning to the revenue budget, yes, the budget balances, but it does so under increasing financial pressure. The budget relies heavily on reserves at a time as capital commitments increase and investment income becomes less certain. The Council's own Section 151 officer is very clear about the risk. The report warns that reserves will be significantly depleted by 28-29 and that this position would be imprudent. And this isn't about playing politics. This isn't us being political for the sake of it. That is professional financial advice. Residents understand what that means. It means once reserves are gone, they are gone. They cannot be reused or rebuilt quickly. Heavy use of reserves today reduces financial flexibility tomorrow and reduces the Council's ability to respond to emergencies or economic shocks and look at what we may need to prepare for. The list is exhaustive. Preparedness is not saying lack of aspiration. It says aspire sensibly, but also look at who needs support. How do we build communities and support them? And there is also a specific concern that remains unresolved. The revenue budget includes a £1 million contingency for the local plan, Yet members have not been given full sufficient detail about what this money will be spent on, over what timescale, and what happens if costs exceed that provision. Given the scale of local plan risk and the history of cost overruns elsewhere, residents deserve more clarity before such a large sum is effectively parked into the contingency, and transparency matters. Now I want to turn to council tax. The administration is proposing a maximum council tax increase allowed without a referendum, but the legal limit is not a target, it's a safeguard. Choosing the maximum increase may be lawful, but residents expect judgment, not automatic use of the highest permitted rise. Most residents do not support council tax increases, yet many are already facing steep parish precept rises this year, well above inflation, ranging from 17% to 57%. That alone should give us pause, because it shows us why creating new parish councils must be approached with real caution. Parish councils are paid for by residents, they're not free. And once a new parish council is set up, that extra charge is permanent. And the result is simple. Residents would inevitably pay more in council tax year after year, at a time when many households are already under serious financial pressure. Council tax is not abstract to residents. It's a monthly bill that competes with food, energy, and housing costs. When inflation is falling with CPI around 3%, residents are entitled to ask why the maximum increase is necessary. But before I finish, I want to talk about staff pay, and we strongly support the 4% proposed pay award for staff. This side of the chamber have always advocated for fair treatment of our staff. I remember at my first budget council putting forward an amendment for more staff pay and getting it quashed even before the debate, I believe by Councillor Gray. But this year, a change of heart, which is very interesting. We recognise the hard work of our council staff and we thank them. They deliver frontline services, they keep services running, and they turn policy decisions into real outcomes for residents, and supporting the staff is the right thing to do. As Conservatives, we apply the same test residents apply in their own households. Can we deliver what we can commit to? Can we afford the risk? And is this fair to residents who ultimately pay for every decision that we make in this chamber? On those tests, we have serious concerns, and that's why we cannot support these budgets tonight. Because residents do not want bold promises. They want sound judgment, they want steady leadership, and they want a council that puts community before convenience. And they want responsible ambition, not reckless ambition. And residents, above all else, do not want to hear what an amazing funding settlement that Hertsmere got from the government, money that our residents have already paid in tax, and then in the same budget item be hit with the highest council tax increase they could have been gifted. Thank you.
Mr. gets 3 minutes.
No, the smaller parties.
Well, he hasn't put his hand up though.
Yeah.
You can't prevent it for him.
No, I will ask him. Anybody from the reform or, okay, I'll reach over to Councillor George.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the last Personnel and Local Joint Committee meeting, I met with fellow councillors from the three largest groups in this chamber to discuss the pay review for the 2026 to 2027 year. During the meeting, we heard from a representative of our staff who made a request for a 3.5% pay rise, which stood between the November 2025 CPI rate of 3.2% and the RPI rate of 3.8%, on which our reports this evening are based. We were also asked to take into consideration the last year's pay increase of 3%, which was just 0.2% below the rate ultimately given to staff in other boroughs in Hertfordshire who are members of the National Joint Council, bringing the total request to 3.7%. We all agreed that our staff continued to do an incredible job under very difficult circumstances. Whether it's our refuse collectors, who have had to contend with one of the wettest starts to the year on record, our frontline customer service staff, who continue to help some of the most deprived wards in our county, or our planning staff dealing with a large number of applications and, thanks to the planning department, planning committee, the larger number of appeals, or any number of employees who are often here from 8 in the morning until 11 o'clock at night, doing everything that they can and contributing to the work which we have all been doing. That is why councillors during that meeting, with the prudent guidance of our financial officers, unanimously agreed to offer a slightly higher than requested pay figure of 4%. We have been able to do so this year, both due to the careful management of our spending and investments, but also due to the higher than anticipated multi-year settlement we've received from the central government. This investment in our staff will help us to keep staff working in Hertsmere as we head towards local government reorganisation, It will help us to attract talented officers who live in or nearby to our borough. At a time when councils continue to be asked to provide more services for our residents while staying below the 2.99% maximum tax increase threshold, which is below the rate of inflation, our continued partnerships with businesses and members of the local community allows us to ultimately deliver on our statutory services whilst presenting a balanced budget. I therefore ask that all members support this budget item tonight. Thank you.
I'll do it this way. First, Councillor Cohen, then Councillor Kaza, and then Councillor Sachdev. Yeah, and Councillor Sullivan. Yeah, do that. Yeah. You also. Yeah, please, Councillor, go ahead.
Can you just reset the timer, please? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to focus briefly on how this administration proposes and is using Hertsmere's Community Infrastructure Levy, the SIL. SIL, as we know, has a clear and well-defined purpose: to ensure development contributes to the infrastructure it creates demand for: roads, schools, health facilities, transport, and other strategic provision. National guidance is explicit that SIL spending should be informed by the local plan, supported by an infrastructure delivery plan, and set out transparently through the infrastructure funding statement. In Hertsmere, we have accumulated a substantial SIL reserve ready for a local plan. Yet the programme before us would rapidly drain that reserve on a series of hand-picked, localised schemes over the next few years. These are largely parks, community facilities and discretionary projects chosen without any clear link to a future infrastructure delivery plan for our next local plan. To residents, this looks like less strategic infrastructure planning and more like politically selective spending at a very sensitive moment. And the timing could not be worse. A new local plan, and with it a new infrastructure delivery plan, is expected within the next few weeks. That plan must demonstrate how we will fund the major infrastructure required to support the growth that it will provide. Instead of safeguarding SIL to underpin that work, this Labour Liberal Democrat administration is choosing to spend it now, without a strategic framework and without reference to any future needs. We must also consider the wider context. We have got local LGR on the horizon. We may be soon part of a new authority, but our residents will still depend on long-term investment in roads, schools and essential services. It will still be Hertsmere, but with a different name. If we hand over an empty SIL pot and a list of small, politically convenient schemes, we will leave the future council and residents to shoulder the cost of unavoidable but needed infrastructure. So the question is very simple indeed. Is it right, Councillor Shenton, to exhaust years of SIL receipts now, just before a new local plan and likely council reorganisation? As Conservatives, our answer is no. SIL should be used strategically, transparently and for long-term infrastructure that our residents demand and need, not for short-term political priorities.
Councillor Clapper, then Councillor Kaza.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, we are being asked to approve a 2.99% increase in council tax, £6.28 for a Band D property. Some will say it's modest. Some will say it's below the referendum threshold. Some will say it's unavoidable. But for many of our residents, there is no such thing as a small increase anymore. Households across this borough are dealing with higher mortgages, rising rents, energy bills that are still above the historic norms, and food prices that have not returned to where they are. Families are tightening their belts, pensioners are watching every pound, small businesses are fighting to stay afloat. And yet the answer, once again, is to ask residents to pay more. Yes, we are legally required to set a balanced budget, but legality is not the same as leadership. The real question is, have we done absolutely everything possible to control spending before asking our residents to pay more money? Because from the outside, what residents see is a council with big ambitions: regeneration projects, transformation programmes, strategies, frameworks, action plans, and yet the first lever pulled is council tax. This corporate plan talks about delivering excellence and digital transformation. This sounds good, but transformation is meant to reduce costs. not create a permanent upward pressure on bills. Residents are not interested in glossy visions. They are interested in outcomes. So we need to ask, are our services improving? Are our streets cleaner? Are our planning decisions robust? Are we managing our contracts tightly? And are we reducing waste before raising taxes? That is the real test. We also need to be honest about risk. Ambitious regeneration schemes and capital projects always come with financial exposure. Borrowing costs remain volatile, inflation remains uncertain, local government reorganisation is on the horizon. In that environment, caution should be our default setting, not expansion. The administration will argue that this increase is in line with government assumptions, but just because we can increase council tax without triggering a referendum, does that mean that that's something we should do so automatically? Government limits are not targets, and there is also a broader principle at stake. For too long in this country, councils have drifted into a culture where incremental tax rises are treated as routine. A few pounds here, a percentage there. But those increments compound every year, year after year, and eventually, residents feel that government at every level always reaches for their wallets first. We should be different. If we're asking for residents for more money, even £6.28, then we must demonstrate a culture of relentless efficiency, rigorous contract management, lean administration, and absolute discipline over non-essential spending. We must be able to say clearly that we have scrutinised every line, we have challenged every assumption, and we have eliminated waste before increasing council tax. And if we cannot say that confidently, then we should pause. I'm not suggesting that we ignore financial reality. I am not suggesting that we jeopardise our services, but I am saying that residents deserve a council that treats their money with the same seriousness that they would treat their own household budget, because that is what trust depends on. If we want residents to continue supporting this council, they must see that we are prepared to make difficult choices internally before passing on costs externally, and a balanced budget is the legal minimum. A disciplined, value-for-money budget, that is the standard we should be aiming for. Thank you very much.
Councillor Kaza, please.
Thank you, Chair. Being everybody. I want to speak about something that rarely grabs headlines. I want to speak something about something that rarely grabs headlines, but underpins everything we do as a council: certainty, stability, and responsible financial planning here in Hertsmere. For the first time in many years, we are working within a multi-year funding settlement. That may sound technical, but its impact is profound. Instead of operating year to year, waiting for late announcements and adjusting plans at the last minute, we now have clarity over 4-year funding across several years. That certainly allows us to move from short-term survival to long-term strategy. For residents and businesses across Hertsmere, this means your council can plan ahead with confidence. We can prioritize investment, manage costs responsibly, and make decisions based on what is best for our communities. I'm also pleased to say that our medium-term financial forecast shows a balanced budget for the next 3 years. This is the first time we've been able to demonstrate that level of sustained balance across a planning period. In the current local government climate, there is a significant achievement. Across the country, councils are facing immense pressures, raising demand, inflationary costs, and constrained resources. Against that backdrop, delivering a 3-year balanced position is not accidental. It is a result of disciplined financial management, prudent decision-making, and a clear focus on sustainability. A balanced budget does not mean standing still. It means we are creating the conditions to invest wisely in our places, our services, and our future. It means we can protect frontline services while continuing to improve efficiency. It means we are safeguarding the council's long-term resilience. Most importantly, it means we are acting responsibly on behalf of our residents. Every pound we spend is public money. Our duty is to ensure it is managed carefully, transparently, and with a clear eye on the future. The multi-year settlement gives us the stability to plan. Our balanced medium-term financial forecast gives us the confidence to act, Together, they put Hertsmere Borough Council on a strong and sustainable financial footing for the years ahead. That stability matters. It matters for our staff, matters for our partners, and above all, it matters for the people we serve. Thank you, Chair.
I'll call upon Councillor Selby, please.
Thank you. I'm pleased to stand here today in support of the pay award and pay policy. Being part of the Personnel Committee, it was important we achieved a positive pay increase for our staff. The original proposal put forward by the Cabinet member was a 3% increase, which I and some of my colleagues felt to be too low for our staff. This is especially in light that although the Council are not party to the NJC agreement on pay, and we settled our pay award before they published their award on the 1st of April, last year we set our budget below what the NJC actually implemented. To do this 2 years in a row would be completely unfair to our employees. By only increasing our pay this year by 3% felt unjust to our hard-working staff. A 4% increase was agreed in the personnel meeting, and this feels right with the increase in the cost of living, what the NJC might set, and reflection of our need to maintain a high standard and motivated workforce. I believe the staff will be happy with this pay increase, and I want to thank them for their continued service, hard work, and involvement and dedication to our communities. In addition, I'm pleased to see in the capital budget a sum of £250,000 for the refurbishment of Newbury's car park. Having met with the head of street scene in the car park to talk through all the issues that residents have raised with me, I'm pleased these discussions have been taken on board. This car park has been left in disrepair for far too long, and without this investment, footfall on our high street will continue to fall. I am, however, unable to support the capital budget because it does not go far enough to help our communities. Although there are some great ideas for projects, there are no details. What will the upgrade to the shopping parades look like? Which parades will be considered for funding? Will it politically favour some areas over others? How can we support a budget with no details? Further, how do we know the NHS would support Paxton Court as a medical centre? These projects are unsustainable, unachievable and undeliverable. This all needs far more time and attention spent on it rather than just allocating money like we're playing Monopoly. Thank you.
I'll call upon Councillor Oakley, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This budget is being set in the context of a funding settlement that represents a clear and welcome change in direction for local government. Under the current Labour government, core spending power has increased by 19%. That stands in stark contrast to the last comparable period under the Conservative government, when core spending power fell by 11%. That is not a small difference. It is a difference between investment and decline, between strengthening local services and steadily eroding them. For years, councils like ours are forced to absorb cuts, stretch services beyond reasonable limits, and make impossible choices. That was not inevitable. It was the result of political decisions taken at a national level. This new settlement reflects a different set of priorities. It recognises that local councils are not the problem to be managed, but the solution to be empowered. It provides stability, certainty, and critically, growth in core spending power. That gives us the ability to plan properly, to protect frontline services, and to invest in the communities we serve. The contrast could not be clearer. An 11% reduction under the Conservatives' weakened local government, a 19% increase under Labour is helping restore it. This is what happens when you have a government that understands the value of public services and the role local government plays in improving people's lives. This settlement is not just welcome, it is necessary, and it is a foundation on which we can continue delivering for our residents.
Yeah. Councillor Sashdev, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise to focus and support the pay policy statement part of the budget. For me, this isn't about percentages and benchmarking, it's about culture. Every decision we take around pay sends a message about what kind of council we want to be. And this document says clearly that we value fairness, transparency and proportionality. Our staff makes this council work. They are the ones delivering services day in, day out, often quietly, often under pressure. Whether it's waste collection teams, housing officers, planning officers, customer services, finance, environmental health, without them, nothing in this chamber turns into reality. Financial well-being is a part of overall well-being. When people feel respected and fairly rewarded, it strengthens morale, it strengthens loyalty, and it builds a culture where people feel proud to work here. I'm also encouraged by the continued transparency around pay multiples and the positive position on gender pay parity. That shows that we're serious about equity, not just in policy, but in practice. So this document balances public accountability with a really people-centred leadership. And ultimately, if we want excellent services for our residents, we must invest in the people who deliver them. So thank you.
Councillor Aditya Kazal, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the most pressing challenges facing this council is the growing pressure of temporary accommodation. In 2019-20, we received 822 approaches from households seeking support. By 2024-25, that number increased to 1,652. Behind every one of these figures is a person or a family in crisis, often through no fault of their own. Thanks to our sustained investment in prevention work, and this sharp rise in demand has not translated into a comparable increase in the number of households placed in temporary accommodation. That is a significant achievement and a testament to the effectiveness and early intervention partnership work and the dedication of our housing team. However, we cannot ignore the financial strain. The cost of temporary accommodation remains extremely high and frequently exceeds the level of housing benefit that residents are entitled to. This means the council must subsidize the shortfall. This 2026-27 budget will introduce a new consolidated grant. Previous funding streams, including a 470,000 temporary accommodation element from the former homelessness prevention grant, have been amalgamated into a single ring-fence homelessness prevention, rough sleeping, and domestic abuse grant within the housing services budget. Thanks to the multi-year settlement, this equates to just over £100,000 per year until 2028-29 for the temporary accommodation element. While we welcome the certainty that the multi-year settlements bring, we must recognize the scale of the demand against the level of funding available. The reality nevertheless remains. Homelessness pressures are rising, costs are high, and demand continues to outpace funding. Our commitment must be clear: to protect the most vulnerable, to invest in prevention, and to ensure that every pound we spend delivers stability, dignity, and opportunity for those who need it the most. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Sussman, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for offering everyone the chance to speak. This wasn't a luxury afforded to us last night at the audit meeting when we had 10 minutes to question the KPMG auditor and make a huge decision. But tonight, thank you. This current administration is now 3 years into its 4-year term. That is 75% of the way through their elected term. So no longer can you say the last administration. I look forward to the next administration because you won't be part of it, hopefully. I want to talk about local plan slippage because this came up last night at the auditors, and obviously tonight there's budget in place. We do have a lot of planning appeals. They only cost money if we lose them. We need to fight appeals for our residents. We need to put our party politics to one side. We need to fight for our residents, for the green belt, and we need to put residents first. I noticed just a 10k increase in legal costs has been included in the budget for this coming year. This tells us and our residents that you are not willing to fight for them, you're not willing to fight for our green belt, and you're not willing to fight for Hertsmere's future.
Councillor Richards, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to sort of go back to a couple of points made by, firstly by Councillor Sullivan, but also Councillor Clapper. In terms of Councillor Sullivan asking, can the council deliver what it promises? Well, you know, later on in the agenda, we will have a discussion on the corporate plan and vision, and you'll hopefully then get a better view on in terms of how everything fits together. But, you know, are there capacity requirements and capital programmes? They are in line with that item. The 4-year programme, well, Councillor Paul Hudson-Jones last year, I remember being very critical of us not being ambitious enough in our capital programme. And, you know, it's not just about what happens this year and next year, but in, you know, subsequent years as well. There will still be a Hertsmere. There will still be residents of Hertsmere, no matter what that's called, and whether it's represented by 2, 3 or 4 unitary authority. So this is about us leaving a legacy and being ambitious in how we do that. The 1 million for the local plan is in addition to the business as usual requirements of the Planning and Economic Development Department. We hope we don't need more, but we also hope we don't need to find millions more to cover the cost of planning appeals, whether those are successfully upheld or not. We listen to residents, that extra funding for the street cleaning and CEOs is vital. And a point earlier about parish councils. So creating parish councils is in itself not a licence to charge residents more. It's quite possible to set one up with a very light touch and an inexpensive way of doing it. You know, there are differences between some parish councils and other parish councils in terms of how much they are putting up their precept by. In terms of the increase in council tax, is it in the Hertsmere's percentage? It's necessary, yes, because central government makes it contingent on the central funding that they provide. And I'd also then ask, if you can't support our budget, then where is your suggestion on alternative proposals? I didn't hear any yet. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Quilty, please. Turn your mic on, please, sir.
I will. Right, this budget is set in the context of local government reform. We're all facing it. There's an awful lot of financial costs already built in, and it's in an opaque way scattered throughout this budget, the two budget, revenue and capital. But what's this going to mean to us? This is going to mean the demise of Hertsmere Borough Council. Some may say that might be a good thing. It's going to mean loss of local representation. We're going to have less councillors. It's going to mean more bureaucratic red tape. And I always find when the opposition mutter under their breaths, so to speak, that I'm winning. Because it means, there we go again. Because it means that they realise that they are on a dodgy ground. They're built, which is something like the budget they've just built, which has got a foundation stone of sand, because it's robbing the people's pockets. It's taking the money out of the residents of Hertsmere's, sort of who have saved up this money and put it aside so they can spend it, so we as representatives can spend it properly. Not on vanity projects, but on real projects. But getting back to the local government reform, where is the cost-benefit analysis? Well, there isn't one. No one knows where it is. It might be in the back pocket of how would I put this? It might be in the back pocket of U-turn, if you like, Mr. Starmer. He might have it in his back pocket. And it'll be interesting to see if he's going to do that. It could be the 15th U-turn, or maybe even the 16th. There might be a few more. We need to understand what we're voting for here tonight. I will vote for the pay settlement because I think it's the right and proper thing to do, and I urge everyone to do that. I won't be supporting the budget built on sand because we know what's going to happen to it. It's going to fail, and it's really sad. It's like many of the projects that you deal with here. Oh, okay. On sand, Mr. Mayor. Remember that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Ryan.
I'm absolutely delighted to speak in support of the Screen Arts Investment Fund, a bold and forward-thinking initiative that reflects both who we are as a borough and where we are going. Hertsmere is not just another local authority. We are the home of one of the most iconic creative industries in the world. LST Film Studios, proudly owned by this council, has been at the heart of British film and television for generations, producing globally recognized films and television, and continued today as a major center of production and innovation. Let us not forget that Hertsmere owns LST Film Studio today because as a Labour administration had the foresight and courage to save it, protecting a globally significant asset that might otherwise have been lost forever. That decision continues to pay dividends not just financially, but economically and culturally across our borough. This is a sector that brings real benefits to our residents. It supports skilled jobs, attracts investment, strengthens our local economy, and inspires the next generation of creative talent. It places Hertsmere firmly on the global map as a center of excellence for film and television production. What makes the Screen Arts Investment Fund so important is that it recognizes something very special about our borough. Few councils in the country own a world-renowned film studio. Fewer still are in a position to actively invest in and support the continued growth of a thriving global creative sector. This fund demonstrates ambition, it demonstrates confidence in our future, and it demonstrates this council's commitment to building on our unique strengths. As member champion for film and television, I'm immensely proud that we are taking productive steps to support and grow this vital industry. This is not just an investment in infrastructure. It is an investment in jobs, in opportunity, in creativity, and in Hertsmere future. And that is one of the reasons why I am proud to support this budget tonight. Thank you.
I shall call upon Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Half-baked spending on things like spending on things like parks. Interesting. I do hope Mr. Hunter isn't watching this evening, because if he is, I imagine, Councillor Cohen, your season ticket has already been cancelled. However, I do digress, Mr. Mayor. This budget delivers something residents constantly tell us they care deeply about. Clean streets, well-maintained public spaces, and the confidence that standards will be upheld and enforced. I'm particularly pleased to support the investment in both street cleansing and enforcement across both our revenue and capital programmes. This represents a meaningful strengthening of our frontline services, and it's made possible because of the increased spending power the Council now has. This investment allows us to expand our street cleaning capabilities, investing in better equipment and ensuring our public spaces are maintained to a high standard that our residents rightly expect. But cleansing alone is only part of the answer. Enforcement is equally essential. It's about fairness, it's about accountability, and it's about making clear that the small minority who damage our environment through littering, fly tipping and other environmental crimes will face consequences. This budget provides additional resources needed to strengthen our enforcement capabilities, ensuring we can take robust and effective action when necessary. This is about civic pride, it's about protecting our shared spaces, and it's about delivering a visible, tangible improvement in every part of the borough. From a Cabinet's perspective, this reflects our commitment to investing in services that residents see and rely on in every day. I would like to thank the Finance Portfolio, Councillor Shenton, and the Chief Financial Officer, Matt Bunyan, and his team for presenting us with a well-rounded budget. This is what increased spending power makes possible. Stronger services, cleaner streets, and a better environment for all of our residents. And I'm very proud to support it this evening.
Yeah, I'll call upon Councillor Smith.
Thank you. I rise to warmly welcome the increase in the Ward Improvement Initiative Scheme funding, and in particular the enhanced allocation for wards like mine, Cowley Hill. As councillors, we see firsthand the difference these funds make. This is not abstract. This is practical, visible change in our communities. It is new benches where older residents can rest. It's improvements to green spaces. It's support for community groups that bring people together. It's small investments that make a very big difference to people's everyday lives. In wards like mine, Borehamwood Cowley Hill, and in Borehamwood Brookmeadow and Potters Bar Oakmere, we know the challenges our residents face. These, these are areas that score highest on the indices of multiple deprivation, and that reality brings with it greater need and greater responsibility. That is why the enhanced allocation of £5,000 per member is so important. It will allow us to do more, to respond more quickly, to deliver improvements that residents can see and feel in their neighbourhoods. I also welcome the increase for all councillors from £750 to £1,000. Every ward has needs, and this uplift recognises the important role councillors play as local champions for their communities. This is a decision that reflects real leadership. The leader, deputy leader and cabinet have recognised the value of investing directly in our communities and have taken meaningful action to strengthen this scheme. This is about empowering councillors, it is about supporting communities, and it is about ensuring that every part of our borough has the opportunity to benefit from investment and improvement. This is something very special, and I am proud to support this budget. Thank you.
Councillor Myers, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to speak in support of the capital programme, and in particular the investments that directly improve the places our residents live, work and spend their time. This budget reflects something fundamental, that good councils invest not just in maintaining services, but in strengthening the physical fabric of their communities. Across streets, scene, parks, leisure and culture, and our housing and public realm, this capital programme enables us to continue delivering real, visible improvements. That means better parks and open spaces, it means investing in leisure infrastructure, it means maintaining and improving the public realm, and it means ensuring our assets are properly cared for and sustained for the future. The investments are not cosmetic, they are essential. They improve quality of life, they support health and well-being, they strengthen civic pride, and they ensure that Hertsmere remains a borough where people want to live, work and raise their families. And as a Cabinet member, I would like to place on record my sincere thanks to Councillor Shenton, our Finance Portfolio holder, for his leadership and stewardship of the Council's finances. And I'd also like to thank Chief Finance Officer Matt Bunyan and his team, whose professionalism, diligence and expertise underpin everything that we're able to deliver. Balanced budgets do not happen by accident. They happen because of careful planning, discipline and strong financial management. This capital programme demonstrates that we are a council with ambition, but also responsibility. We're investing in our borough, investing in our infrastructure, investing in our future, and I am very proud to support it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'll call upon Councillor Rosehill, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is the most significant and serious decision we take this year because it's the residents' money. Its draft budget sets out a net budget requirement of about 19 million. So inside this chamber, figures can look neat and manageable, but outside the chamber, households are absorbing Cumulative pressure year after year worsens unimaginably by this government. Every increase may be described as modest, but modest increases definitely accumulate. So the question is not whether this budget balances, because it must. The question is whether the internal discipline matches the ask we are making of residents. There are some areas in the budget that I do support. So the pay settlement is fair, disability facilities grants reflects a supportive move for vulnerable residents. But there are also choices here that deserve a lot of scrutiny. So the budget includes £380,000 for senior leadership restructure and programme management. So if we're increasing council tax, realistically restraint should start at the top. So what efficiencies will this restructure deliver? When will residents see the benefit? We're also allocating £75,000 per year to a screen investment fund, the screen that we wasted quite a lot of time in a planning committee discussing over. You can't even see on the actual... Well, I'm going to have a go at that one anyway, because that was an investment capital move by the government, by the Labour Party. We're also... OK, calm down, Jeremy. We're expanding the community enforcement team with additional staffing and vehicles, yet realistically, if I'm honest, has anyone seen any tangible benefit in this entire borough with the investment that's already been made on that? So economic growth does matter, but if councils are not careful to drift into the role, councils must not drift into the role of venture capitalists, and that's what I see from Jeremy and co. If a sector is not commercially strong, it should not require recurring subsidy from council taxpayers. Public money should create the conditions for growth, not underwrite it. So budgets reveal priorities. My priority is disciplined management, strong frontline services and protection of residents from unnecessary tax drift. For those reasons, I cannot support a budget that raises council tax while expanding management costs and funding discretionary subsidy without clear evidence of truth. Thank you.
Councillor Newmark, I think you reserve your right to speak. Is there any other speaker from... Yeah, Councillor Bright, please.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Mayor. I think it's quite important to understand that when we talk about the cost of inflation, we're talking very much about a basket, not a basket case, but a basket of items that the government uses and the financial institutions, fiscal studies, etc., use to work out how things are going up and down in price. One of the reasons why I'm particularly pleased that the staff pay is going up by more than was originally anticipated is not because I'm a great one for saying let's give staff, keep giving in when other people may not be getting, but because our staff work very hard, and also because inflation itself is a very fickle beast. So we talk about certain things going up by whatever it is, 3.5, but we know, for example, food costs have actually gone up by considerably more, whether it be meat costs by about 18%, pasta and various other things have gone up by somewhat more than 3%. So it's important that we make sure that our staff receive the sort of remuneration that we can give them, while at the same time understanding that there is a time of uncertainty at the moment for staff, generally across local government, with local government reorganisation coming. People don't know whether there's going to be an amalgamation, what's going to happen to the areas in which they work, etc., and so on, departments. And so there's some uncertainty, and it's a difficult time for everyone, hospitality industry, but certainly in local government as well. I do get a little bit, not concerned, but I do get a bit confused by this. We've got a 3-year funding settlement when we're not going to be here in 2 years. I think it's all very clever, the government saying 3-year funding settlements, we've managed to work this out, how we're going to do it. Well, it's not going to affect us here because we get next year, and then the best we get is 2 years. So it's all very well looking further down the line. And I think fiscal responsibility is very important, but let's not overdo, let's not over-egg the pudding. I mean, Councillor Shenton, I mean, honestly, what's happened to you? Are you on something? Can I have some of it? It's all this stuff about how great the government's doing, etc., financially. But actually, if you look at the finances, and you actually admitted it at Cabinet when I asked the question, not at the last meeting, but the meeting before, the reason why we've kind of got more money is because of all the other grants, etc., and pots that have been shoved together and say you've got more spending ability, you've got more ability to raise money, etc. and so on. So it's not just a case of government being beneficent with taxpayers' money. It's the fact that the money's actually been brought in from elsewhere. What is important, though, and I've heard this tonight, is that if we're going to put council tax up by 3%, that only raises something in the region of the best part of £250,000. We need to make sure that our residents don't believe that it's being spent just to fund more senior management costs, but actually that money's coming in from elsewhere. Because if we are going to provide better services, then we have to make sure and prove that we can do so, and we're not just putting those costs up as a consequence of it. So I am very happy to support the rise in salary for our staff. I hope we hold on to them. I hope we continue to show them how important they are to us, because this doesn't work without them. Thank you very much.
Is there another speaker? Since there is any, I'll call upon Councillor Newmark, because he reserved his right to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's been a great pleasure tonight to second the budget proposals before us, a set of progressive and aspirational budget proposals from this progressive and aspirational administration. I'd like to begin by placing our group's support on the record for the proposals, and our thanks to Councillor Shenton, Matthew Bunyan and the entire Finance Officer team for the considerable amount of work that's been undertaken in supporting us to once again bring forward a balanced budget despite improving yet still extremely testing circumstances for local government. Listening to the debate this evening, I wanted to thank Councillor Clapper for at least providing some coherent opposition to the proposals in front of us, and well-informed opposition. But as much as she may wish to portray themselves as the voice of the ordinary person, the truth is that it's reform-led councils up and down the country that are coming to the government begging for extraordinary financial support. And let's not even talk about what's been going on in Kent. It's the leadership of the Reform Party that worked alongside Liz Truss in crashing our economy. And the reality is, it doesn't matter whether they put on a Tory rosette or a Reform rosette. They're the same people who crashed our economy and failed the British public. And you can talk about representing the ordinary person, but I'm not quite sure the ordinary person can identify with somebody like Farage, who forgot about £380,000 of undeclared earnings, as was revealed recently. Look, the truth is that this is a budget that is a remarkable achievement when it's considered against rising inflationary pressures and the growing demands on our services. And for the first time in some years, I don't need to add continued uncertainty to that list of pressures, because as we've heard, the multi-year settlement is in many ways more valuable than a direct financial boost, because it does enable us to massively enhance our ability to engage in robust medium-term planning. And to address the points that some have made about is the boost new money or not, that's not really the point here. The point is our core spending power, the amount of money that we as an authority have to spend on local services. And the reality is that the retained business rate growth, whether you consider it new money or simply being able to spend money that we have but weren't able to spend previously, increases that core spending power by 19% in comparison with the 11% decrease under the previous comparable period under the previous regime. And it's to protect those gains that I spent the best part of a weekend negotiating with ministers and the Secretary of State to promote the adjustment support grant of in excess of £15 million around the country, to ensure that councils like our own were not faced with a reduction in the amount of that gain just days before the final financial settlement was published. And I'm particularly grateful to the leaders of the Conservative, Liberal Democrat and Independent groups on the District Council network for coming together to work with me on an absolutely cross-party basis. What we've got in front of us this evening at its core, is a budget that protects the services that residents depend upon, and it does that without dipping into unsustainable levels of reserves or without compromising our future capacity. It's a budget that represents prudent, responsible management and a commitment to protecting our community fabric at a challenging time. It's a budget that includes the package I announced last month of major investment to engender an increased sense of pride in our place. Hundreds and thousands of pounds of new investment in street cleaning and in our community enforcement team, bolstered by capital allocations for new equipment and vehicles to support their work. I don't understand if Councillor Rosehill was being sarcastic or has genuinely got the wrong end of the stick, but the £75,000 per annum Screaming Investment Fund is not about TV screens. It's about catalysing and kick-starting new initiatives in the very sector that underpins our entire local economy. And then, of course, the budget also includes the realistic pay rise so richly deserved by our staff, and I can't put it any better than Councillor Sachdev did earlier. This is ultimately a budget that includes a fair and restrained approach to council tax. It was Councillor Sachdev and Councillor Graham from your own group who year after year told us that the maximum pre-referendum threshold of council tax was baked into the system, and that if we didn't impose that, it would create a collateral effect that would require much larger increases in the future. I agreed with them at the time, very publicly, and I agree with them now. The reality is this is sound and prudent financial management that is both fair and responsible. It's a below inflationary rise, which some people would say is the closest thing to a real terms cut. It's £6.28 a year for the average Band D property. And not that I drink them, but I'm told that this is less than the cost of a matcha and cream frappuccino at Starbucks. This is a budget, my friends, that protects our essential services in an era in which many other councils are having to cut them back. Residents will be reassured that waste collection, environmental services, key support for housing and homelessness, boosted by £100,000 of genuinely new money from central government, will all remain fully funded. And it's particularly encouraging that despite rising operational costs, all of those essential frontline services will continue without any cuts at all. And yes, we are investing in cost of living measures, the continuation of our council tax support scheme, the hardship fund and targeted grants to community food and advice providers and citizens' advice demonstrates a really welcome focus on protecting our most vulnerable residents, and those are the quiet but vital budgets that very few people have spoken about this evening, but those are the budgets that make a real difference in ordinary people's and most vulnerable people's life. To turn to Councillor Sullivan's sort of extended remarks about this being a budget that stretches delivery capacity. Well, here's the thing. They do absolutely and quite literally the opposite of that. At the heart of this budget, as Councillor Rosehill correctly pointed out, with the senior management restructure and the addition of the new project management unit, they quite literally represent investment in new delivery capacity. They enhance this council's ability to deliver this ambitious and aspirational set of projects. What she really seems to be objecting to is that over the course of the past 3 years, we've revised their stagnated capital projects programme, reclaimed it, rejuvenated it with aspiration and ambition. We're not engaging in a race to the bottom just because LGR is on the cards. What we're doing is building the capacity of this council to get spades in the ground, deliver critical projects before that LGR deadline passes. And you know what? I find it incredible that the party opposite object to spending £3 million on critical NHS infrastructure. It's reality that community diagnostic centres and health hubs are the single biggest strategic intervention that can be made in public health terms. They promised new medical provision for South Boreham Wood year after year after year and delivered nothing. Dowden promised new medical provision for South Boreham Wood at 3 successive elections and delivered nothing. And this administration is making the investment to get things done. They didn't meet as an administration with the leadership of the local NHS or the ICB or the regional NHS partners. We're meeting them regularly, and I met them only the other day, and their excitement about our investment in this project is palpable, and we will get the job done. This is a budget that reflects a sense of shared responsibility and long-term thinking. It's a budget that relies on the positives of the government's fair funding settlement, whilst recognising that there will always be winners and there will always be losers. But above all, this is a budget that continues to shield residents from the harshest edges of the financial crisis. And it looks forward to continuing to invest in people, in places, and in the infrastructure of opportunity and hope, which is what this progressive administration has delivered for Hertsmere. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Please. I shall call upon Councillor Shenton to sum up, and thereafter you have 5 minutes to sum up, and thereafter we'll take each of the vote separately.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, I must thank Councillor Selby and Councillor Sashdev for their comments on the Personnel Committee and for their work on the Personnel Committee and their approval of the 4% pay rise. I think it is an important thing. It is above inflation, but it is necessary. As I said, I think it's a very good thing. I have to say that's probably where I run out of matters of agreement with that side of the chamber. So I'm genuinely confused about some things. SIL, for instance. This budget doesn't set SIL. SIL is set by the SIL panel, which then comes through as a project-based thing to Cabinet and Council. The 4-year capital programme, again, by law, we have to produce a capital programme at every budget, but we are not committing spending at this budget. We are reporting the state of the capital programme. Any bid goes through the asset management panel and goes to Cabinet and or Council, depending upon its scale. So this whole thing that yes, you can't accept the capital programme, it's irrelevant. Parish councils, I'm interested, we will come on to parish council levies soon, but just as a little spoiler for the rest, there is a parish councillor in here who is part of the parish that put their bill up by over 50%. We will get to that later. The SIL pot, as I say, it's nothing to do with this meeting. Inflation. Councillor Clapper bemoaned the fact that we are limiting our council tax increase to 3%. Well, the Bank of England target for inflation is 2%. Okay, it is currently running higher than hoped for and hopefully moving in the right direction. But nobody ever targets, no economic... If only we had actually a Bank of England economist to hand. But nobody targets a 0% inflation. It's you know, it doesn't work. The regeneration risks. Councillor Clapper also talked about the regeneration risks and local government reorganisation. We have put a substantial budget entry in for LGR costs, but that isn't a gift. It isn't a gift to the county council or to anybody else. All spending on LGR will be approved and assessed in detail. We know that it will happen, we know that there will be costs, and so we put a budget in. These are budget items, they're not commitments of spending. So, Councillor Bright, for information, food inflation is currently running at 3.6%. So higher than the 3% council tax rise, and it usually does run a little bit higher than CPI, but it's of that order. And the retained business rates is a properly good news story. We were In previous years, we make business rate growth every year, and when the base is reassessed, we lose that growth. The fact that this year we have been able to keep the accumulated business rate growth is what makes this a budget that pays for all the growth and the pay rise and all the other spending commitments that we have, and yet still balances the budget. So I think that I have not heard any specific point here that actually argues against the proposals being met. I would recommend to all of the council that we accept the 4 sets of recommendations. By law, we have to set a budget by the 11th of March. We can't increase pay and not have a corresponding way of paying for that. So the thing comes together as a package. You can't pick and choose bits of it. It's a package. It has to be done by the 11th of March. So I recommend strongly to everybody on both sides of the chamber that we support this motion. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay, now we're going to go to vote with regards to each item. And the first one on the list is the pay award and pay policy statement. Are we all ready? It has been moved and seconded, so we're going to go for a vote on each of the items. Okay.
Members, for clarity, it's agenda item 6A, decision of the pay report, was moved by Councillor Shenton, seconded by Councillor Giorgio, the first item in the combined debate, and we're preparing for the vote.
Is it pay award? Yeah. Okay, this has been carried because there was one abstention.
Turn to page 8 and read that. Forget about that page. And that one. Read the bottom of that page.
Pardon me. We're going to agenda item 6B, the decision report, setting the capital budget of 2025 and 26 and 2028-29. And Councillor Shenton has moved the recommendation, and Councillor Newmark has seconded. Okay. Okay, are we all ready for the vote? Okay, let's go for it. As far as I can see from the monitor, it has been carried. Okay. We're going to move over to agenda item 6C, decision report, setting the revenue budget of 2026-27. Councillor Shenton has moved the recommendation and Councillor Newmark has seconded. Members, are we ready to vote? It has been carried. Okay, then okay, we're going to go over to agenda item 6D, the decision report with regards to council tax setting and council fund levies with regards to Hertsmere Borough Council, parish and town councils. Councillor Shenton has moved the recommendations and Councillor Newmark has also seconded. Are we all going to go for a vote? Are you all ready? Okay, that's great. Yeah. Oh, that's carried. Okay, where? Please, ma'am. Please. Look, we're all mature people here. At least let's be civil. Let's behave ourselves in the proper way. Or else, then this thing would be adjourned. You know.
Not before we set the council tax
Yeah.
legal obligation.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I do know, but we need civility here.
No, I don't see any bad.
Okay. We come into agenda item 7, decision report, setting the overall council tax. The council tax resolution. I call on Councillor Shenton to move the recommendation as set out in the report. And I will call on Councillor Shah to second it. Yeah. Councillor Shenton, please. Huh?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we've done the important bits of the budget tonight. These bits fill in the details and are necessary to carry through what we've just done. So, setting the council tax. Yet again, Hertsmere Borough Council is proposing a smaller rise in our share of council tax than the county, the police and the parishes. Given inflation of 3.8%, HBC's increase of 2.99% is yet again a fall in real terms. Parish precepts, though, have risen well above inflation. Aldenham is up 9.6%, Elstree and Boreham Wood is up 17%, South Mims and Ridge up 35%, and I think I've mentioned this before, to Parish Councillor Sussman, who she probably knows anyway. Shenley have put their council tax, their parish precept, up by an eye-watering 57%. Maybe Councillor Sussman can explain that one to me afterwards. So, what this means, the base for a Band D property, the base is £199.93. For Bushy, Potters Bar and Meriden, there is special expenses of £19.09. That is for bus shelters and something to do with parks. So the total precept for a Band D property for the unparished areas is £219.02, up 2.98%, rounded down. Of the others, Aldenham is £356, Elstree and Boreham Wood 303, Shenley 313 and South Mims 301, representing an increase of 5.8%, 6.8%, 15% and 10.1%, considerably higher than ours. The increase for Herts Police and Crime Commissioner is £15 to 280, which is a 5.66% increase, and Hertfordshire County Council goes up £88 by 4.99%. As ever, the proposal for Hertsmere is the lowest level, and I recommend the proposal to put up our precept by 2.99%. Thank you.
I will call upon Councillor Shah to second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Butler, please.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep this short and sweet because it's 9:10 now and I'm sure we want to get home at some point this evening. So, look, this is the minimum possible increase, and this is obviously below inflation, so actually it's a real term cut. We've also got to point out that we've all just voted in favour of staff increases and stuff like that, and supporting the capital budget. So if we don't vote for this now, that was all a waste of time and all those speeches were nonsense. So we need to crack on, let's get to the vote and move forward. Thank you, Mr.
Is there anyone else? Yeah, Councillor Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This may be a technical report, but the impact on residents is very real. The council has chosen to increase its share of council tax by 2.99%, the maximum allowed without triggering a referendum. That is a conscious political choice. When added to the increases of Hertfordshire County Council and the Police and Crime Commissioner for Hertfordshire, residents will see an average bandee bill of £2,405, up by £116 a year. At the same time, as Councillor Shenton said, parish precepts in some areas are rising dramatically. South Mimsam Ridge by more than 34%, Hertsmere Borough Council by 17% and more. And this is where our biggest concern lies. The creation and expansion of additional parish councils risks embedding a permanent additional layer of taxation. Every new council brings a precept. Every precept increases bills. And once established, those structures rarely reduce costs, they grow them. We should be asking whether some of the services being funded, community events, minor amenities, local initiatives, could be, and in many cases are, delivered by volunteers and community groups without creating ongoing tax burdens. As Conservatives, we believe in strong communities, not simply more tiers of government. There is a real danger that instead of empowering residents, we formalise everything. We create administrative overheads and pass on the bill year after year. Once council tax rises, it does not come down. Yes, we are required to set this resolution tonight, but we should not ignore the direction of travel. Higher borough taxes, higher unitary taxes, higher parish taxes, and a steadily rising overall tax burden on our residents. That deserves serious reflection. Thank you.
Councillor Brisky, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't actually plan on speaking on this item, but I listened with great interest to Councillor Shenton's speech. And I was wondering if he might know the answer to this question, because 4 out of every £5 nearly that we pay in council tax is paid to the county council. But yes, this year they've decided to increase council tax by an inflation-busting 4.99%. Okay, that's £84.12 for a bandee property. I'm wondering if he could provide any information on why his party has decided to do that to our residents.
Yeah, Councillor Newmark, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't going to speak on this, but I'm astonished at this departure in policy from Councillor Cohen and the Tory group opposite. Are they seriously suggesting that we ask local residents to volunteer to collect the bins, to deal with public health, to deal with our parking enforcement? I mean, it's the most bizarre response to a council tax setting debate that I have ever heard. In this borough, we embrace the involvement of our communities. We invest in the involvement of our communities and we support them. And it is our role to invest in community and support communities, not to ask members of the community to step forward and deliver services that our wonderful officers deliver with appropriate professionalism and expertise. And the lack of understanding about what's going on in the parishes in our own area is astonishing. The rationale behind the finances of Elstree and Bournemouth Town Council is that for the best part of a decade, your Tory administration there failed to present a balanced budget and masked it by dipping into and depleting the reserves down to almost nothing. It's a progressive Labour administration there that has got that town council back onto a firm financial footing, and it's a Conservative group that's actually said that the Labour group there have not increased the council tax enough. And let's talk about South Mims Parish Council, where the utterly unnecessary by-election to a parish without, to a seat on a parish without powers of general competence, quadrupled the council taxpayers' bill for a one-off this year. That was the cost of Reform UK wanting to refresh their data in a part of the borough where they felt they might have had a chance. Well, it didn't work, and look who paid for it.
Councillor Shah, I think you reserve your right to speak. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The reality of life is life gets more expensive every year. Whether it's your phone bill, whether it's your Sky subscription, everybody puts their prices up. And yes, we all moan about it, but the reality, get a reality check, 2.99%, £6.28 is nothing. Hertfordshire County Council and the Police Crime Commissioner have put theirs up a bit more, but the fact is that things go up. If you want to give a 4% pay rise, you've got to find the money to pay for it. It doesn't magic from somewhere. So I am proposing in favour of this motion because I think £6.28 from us is not very much. £89 a year or whatever it is that's going up on the council bill, that is in line with a lot of other things that have been going up in this country. So let's get real and say, yes, this is not excessive, it's just a fact of life. Thank you.
Yeah, please. Councillor Shenton, can you please sum up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a technical report. As we all know, we have agreed that we're going to put up Hertsmere's council tax by 2.99%, and this just reflects how that works out as amounts of money and when adding the parish and counties parts to it. So, you have already agreed it, frankly. To do anything else would be perverse. But in reply to Councillor Cohen, the only thing I might say of that, all of the most expensive parishes in Hertsmere are Conservative run and have been forever. Radlett, Shenley, South Mims and Ridge, although that is a special case, they're Conservative run. That's what happens when you have a one-party state that is Conservative. So we have to vote for this. We've already voted for the actual amount of money. This just confirms how it's split up. Thank you.
Members, are we prepared for a vote? Okay, we go for a vote then. It's unanimous. It's been carried. Okay, then we're moving over to agenda item number 8 with regards to the decision report on Elstree immersive experience and governance arrangements. I shall call on Councillor Newmark to move the recommendations as set out in the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. After the heat of the budget debate, it's nice to have a positive consensus-based project to talk about. As members are aware, we as a council have agreed to make a significant SIL investment as part of a £3.3 million funding package. Additional funding's been gained for this project from central government through Department of Science, Innovation and Technology and through its education partners, the University of Hertfordshire. Look, this is a great project. Getting the governance right for something so new and cutting edge has not been straightforward. It's taken a number of months to work through and has involved a significant amount of advice from teams of expert lawyers and accountants. This governance seeks to blend together a number of imperatives. Firstly, to ensure that the project is properly rooted in the local community, which will primarily be the role of the CIC that will take on community heritage and that part of the education and community agenda. It's a project that needs to be firewalled against the potential developments of LGR, the Unitary Authority. It's a project that requires strong accountability to this local authority that will be the 90% shareholder and the majority beneficiary of dividends and profits. And most of all, it needs to be a project that is operated in a business-like and efficient manner. And key to this governance structure as proposed and neatly set out in the diagram on page 263 of your agenda is also ensuring that this will be maximally cost effective by delivering a governance structure that enables the maximum possible tax efficiencies. So we've got the shareholders, we've got the special purpose vehicle board, you've got your supplementary paper that sets out the nominations to that board, which is a good balance of administration and opposition councillors. The chief executive has designated our Democratic Services Manager, Alan Witherick, to act as the company secretary, the nominee company secretary. And the report in front of us today simply asks us to approve the governance that have been worked through so painstakingly and to enable the other bodies who are our partners in this exercise to appoint their allocated company directors. It enables the council to set up the company, and it will enable us to get this great project up and running within the ambitious but achievable timeline that we have set. Thank you.
Yeah. I shall call upon Councillor Bright to second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise to second this item and reserve my right to speak.
Yeah, Councillor Clapper, yeah, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I am pleased to support this report on the governance arrangements for the Elstree Immersive Experience. It's also very refreshing to hear Councillor Newmark do a speech that wasn't for once reform bashing, so thank you very much for that. As members will know, the principle of this project has already been agreed by the Council. What is before us this evening is about ensuring that delivery is structured properly, responsibly and with proper oversight. Establishing a company limited by shares with clear shareholder controls, reserved matters and council-appointed non-exec directors provides a robust framework to protect the public interest while enabling the project to move forward at pace, though I do question the lack of industry experience in some of the proposed board members. I also speak as someone who sits on the Centenary Board. We are approaching a significant moment in the history of Elstree and Boreham Wood. 100 years of film and television heritage is not simply something to celebrate for nostalgia's sake. It is a legacy of global cultural impact, economic contribution and creative excellence that has shaped our borough and continues to do so. The immersive experience is an opportunity to secure that legacy for future generations. It's about education, skills, tourism and civic pride. And it's about ensuring that our young people understand the extraordinary story on their doorstep and can see future pathways into the creative industries. Good governance is essential if that legacy is to endure. The proposed arrangements strike the right balance between democratic accountability and commercial agility. The safeguards around shareholder agreements, business planning and financial monitoring are appropriate, and I welcome the clarity that final approval on key matters returns to full council. This is a forward-looking step. It honours our past, but it is fundamentally about the future. For these reasons, I'm happy to support the recommendations this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Councillor Green, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report speaks first and foremost to something that's quite fundamental, and it's the importance of steady, responsible and effective governance. As major projects succeed or fail, not simply because of their ambition, but because of the strength of their oversight. And that's why it's important that we have a strong and capable set of non-executive directors in place from the outset. They provide independent scrutiny, professional expertise, and the assurance that decisions are made properly, transparently, and in long-term interests of the council and our residents. Because good governance is not an optional extra, it's foundational to the success of a project. And ambition is exactly what this immersive experience represents. For many years and across party lines, we've spoken about the importance of recognising and celebrating Hertsmere's unique place in its cultural world. We're home to a globally significant film and television industry, and our heritage has shaped British and international cultures for generations. This immersive experience is a modern, innovative and exciting way to bring that heritage to life. It allows residents and visitors alike to engage with our story in a new and dynamic way. But crucially, its success will depend on the governance that we place, and by ensuring strong oversight, clear accountability and the right expertise at the heart of this project, we are giving it the very best possible foundation. It is how responsible councils deliver projects, and with vision, yes, also with discipline, and I'm very pleased to accept this report. Thank you.
I shall call upon Councillor Sullivan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to speak about the community vision behind this experience and what that could mean for residents across our borough. Elstree is already synonymous with film and television heritage, from the legacy of Elstree Studios to global productions such as Star Wars and EastEnders, and our borough has helped shape stories watched by millions across the world. The immersive experience gives us the opportunity to bring that story to life, not as a static exhibition, but as a dynamic, multi-sensory environment. Visitors could step into recreated sets, explore how special effects transform imagination into reality, and experience the sights and sounds of production in the studio firsthand. This is about letting people step inside the story, and we get to help create that. Immersive environments are powerful because they engage more than just sight. They combine sound, light, movement, and interactive design to create experiences that are memorable and meaningful. In my work within the community every day, I see how thoughtfully designed spaces can build confidence, encourage participation, and support well-being across all age groups. The way a space feels truly matters, and this must be inclusive, accessible, and inspiring for everyone. Strong partnerships will help ensure its success. The involvement of the University of Hertfordshire brings expertise in creative media and digital innovation, while industry professionals such as Adam Morley contribute valuable practical insight into audience engagement and delivery. There are also significant tourism benefits. Screen tourism continues to grow, and a high-quality immersive attraction would draw visitors regionally, nationally, and internationally. Increased football means greater support for our town centre businesses, restaurants, and local economy. The impact would ripple far beyond the attraction itself, and many local jobs will be created. And the possibilities are limitless, with evolving technology from augmented reality to interactive digital storytelling. This experience can be grown and adapt over time, keeping it fresh and relevant for repeat visitors. And if we get this right, which we will, we won't just celebrate our past. We will create a living, evolving destination that strengthens our economy, inspires imagination and builds pride in our borough, rooted in strong governance with a team I know who will work hard to ensure this project is successful. Thank you.
I shall call on Councillor Richard, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be very brief. I haven't got anything pre-prepared, and this is definitely more than box ticking in terms of cross-chamber work. As a Liberal Democrat group, whilst we don't represent Boreham Wood or Elstree, we're fully behind this proposal. It has already been agreed, funding's already been agreed anyway. So when you look at what's in front of us, if you don't have governance, you don't have a project. So we have no alternative. We need the governance. Particularly like to commend the governance architecture document as an appendix. It makes it particularly clear how things are proposed to work, and in terms of graphics, it's far easier to follow. I'd also sort of like to. It's been the Councillor Chris Shenton's show this evening, so in terms of the Liberal Democrat nomination, our group has proposed Councillor Shenton as our representative, and the other thing came up in cabinet earlier. Really do like the idea that this is more than just about entertainment. This is educational, and it's really building that sort of skill base and excitement around film and TV in the area. So really behind this. Thank you.
Councillor Bright, I think you reserve your right. Oh, pardon
I
me.
did.
Please, sir.
No, I'm sorry.
Pardon me, I do apologize.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
We have a limited number of speakers in each debate, and we've reached those.
In this light, I will allow our Councillor Amron to say a few words to participate.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, I've supported this from the get-go. I think it's an absolutely fantastic sort of immersive experience that we're creating here in Bournemouth, and a really exciting step forward for the community. Obviously, you know, for over a century, LC Studios has put Bournemouth on the map, you know, from world-class film productions to iconic TV shows. It's not just about celebrating the past in this new venture, it's about investing in the future. I think it will attract visitors, support local businesses, create a lot more jobs, provide a lot of opportunities for young people to explore careers in the creative industries, and obviously a very educational tool as well. You know, I think myself and my colleagues on Hertsmere First, we've always believed in backing any project that combines ambition with community value, and I think this does exactly that. In terms of the governance, I think it's pretty robust. I deal with governance in other areas, but you know, governance is governance. And I think basically, yeah, let's just continue to champion initiatives that showcase the very best of our borough. And I think that, you know, this new experience is something we can all be very proud of. So I hope everybody in this chamber is going to vote for it. Thanks.
I shall call upon Councillor Bright because he reserved his right to speak.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Mayor. Well, you can tell when something's going well because everyone wants to be associated with it. This project is governance is governance. This project is very exciting, but it's also very responsible. And you'll know that some of the concerns earlier on about how this governance was going to be put in place. The governance arrangements that are set out in this report show that we're not just backing a good idea, we're backing it properly. There are very clear lines of accountability. There are defined roles for our statutory officers, and appropriate delegated authority ensures financial oversight and transparent decision-making. Funding is structured, it's monitored, it's going to be tied to delivery, and that's exactly how public money should be handled. And Councillor Newmark was absolutely right, we've got a very tight deadline here. The immersive experience is not just going to be like a static museum, as we've had in the past everywhere in the world, with glass cases and information boards, it's storyboards you can step into. It uses modern technology, it uses projection, sound, interactive design to bring our past to life in ways that inspires younger generations and encourages new audiences. I've mentioned about when I went to see the Barcelona immersive experience around the new stadium that's being built there. Immersive experiences are how people learn today. They are dynamic, they are hands-on, they are memorable, and they connect education with entertainment. And for our local schools, local families and visitors, even those from Bushy, this will not just tell the story of our creative industries, it will allow people to feel very much part of it. And from an economic perspective, this is very smart investment indeed, in my opinion, using the community infrastructure leverage funding for a lasting cultural asset and combining it with external investment. We are strengthening our visitor economy while we are managing our risk carefully. As you say, not just about pride in the past, it shows we're set for the future and we are confident about our future as well. It's a modern way to celebrate our heritage, and it's delivered with modern standards of governance, and I very much hope that colleagues will support this, and I'm grateful to the leader and others who have managed to bring this report and work as hard as they have in recent times to get the governance together.
I shall call upon Councillor Newmark to sum up, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Bright, Councillor Amron, Councillor Richards, Councillor Shenton and Councillor Clapper for their supportive speeches, and particularly to thank Councillor Clapper for the seminal role that she has played in the development of the Elstree Film Studios centenary work. And I think it was about 7.5 years ago that kind of joint party motions weren't so common at that point, but she jointly proposed with me the all-party motion to create a film and TV exhibit in the area. And it's taken us longer than we would have hoped, but I think we're doing it in a far more spectacular way than we ever anticipated. And obviously to thank Councillor Bright and probably to use this opportunity to congratulate him on his 60th birthday. What a way to spend it in a budget meeting of the Council. But I think that in many senses, after the sort of sad passing of Paul Welsh, who'd always been an advocate of a film and TV centre in the area, given the onset of his 60th, we can truly say that Councillor Bright is now the elder statesman of the creative industries in Hertsmere. So look, this is a fantastic triple helix partnership bringing together the education sector, local government and the private sector. I think that's a recipe for success and look forward to seeing the outcomes. I commend this report to you.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that we can now go for a vote on this particular issue. It's unanimous. It's going to be, yeah. Okay, we're moving forward. We're going to go over to agenda item number 9, which is the decision report regarding corporate plan of 2026. I shall call on Councillor Newmark to move the recommendations as set out in the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, personally, I've never been a huge fan of vision and strategy processes because I think they encourage an environment of navel-gazing rather than action. But in this case, it was particularly the first visit of the LGA Corporate Peer Review Challenge team that convinced us that it really was time not just to refresh the Hertsmere Vision and Corporate Plan, but to replace the sort of rather extensive portfolio of different vision, mission, aims and objective documents that had been built up over the years within different parts of the Council's governance, and as I say, to replace them with a single source of articulating our vision and future direction. Much of the work that's reflected in the document in front of you today is the result of intensive discussions between the senior leadership team and the Cabinet, who've been meeting for the past number of months as a newly expanded management board, creating that time and space for a proper and serious strategic discussion that often gets put to one side, despite the best of intentions, given the pace of day-to-day life in local government and in a busy council. And I hope that members will agree with me that what we have here is a document that does articulate and provide very clear strategic direction for the council. It sets out what I accept are an ambitious set of priorities, but it also clearly defines those priorities in a manageable way. And what we're really clear about as an administration is this isn't an elastic situation. If something needs to be added to that list of priorities, we can't simply assume the capacity to do it exists. What we will have to do is revise those priorities and remove other things. And I think that's partly how we answer the question that Councillor Sullivan set earlier in the context of the budget debate around the risk of taking on too much. This document isn't a statutory requirement, but it is a serious attempt to ensure that we set out in a robust, manageable way exactly what we intend to achieve over the next couple of years, and that we do that within the resources available to us. I commend this report to members.
Thanks. I shall call upon Councillor Richards to second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise to second this report, but I will reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thanks all so much. So now this matter is open for debate. I shall call upon Councillor Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we know, residents don't just judge us on glossy plans or fine words. We see that at the ballot box. They judge us on whether things actually get delivered. That's why I have concerns about this document. There's a lot of talk about ambition and vision. We've heard it from Councillor Newmark throughout this evening, but much less about whether this council can realistically deliver what's being promised. Let's take sustainability. We're told it's woven throughout this plan, yet residents looking for clear commitments, which I just did, firm targets, timescales and measurable outcomes, will struggle to find them. For a council that declared a climate emergency in 2019, this feels more like drift than real urgency, and it is urgent. Then there's transparency. On page 2, almost every statistic relates specifically to Hertsmere, except one really important one. The affordable housing completions figure is county-wide, not Hertsmere specific. Why is that? Affordable housing is one of the biggest pressures facing families here. Using county-wide data risks masking the real picture in Hertsmere and does not help residents understand what is actually being delivered locally. But my biggest concern, Mr. Mayor, is about delivery, especially on capital projects. Earlier this evening, we discussed the capital budget and saw clearly that many projects budgeted for last year were not delivered, with enormous slippage. So residents will reasonably ask, if the council struggled to deliver what is already planned, why should they have confidence in a new plan that adds even more projects? This document lists major ambitions but says very little about capacity, prioritisation, or what will change to ensure delivery. From a Conservative point of view, that matters. We believe in realism, value for money, and being honest with residents about what can actually be delivered. Hertsmere residents deserve plans that are clear, local and achievable, not just well-worded intentions.
Councillor Rosehill, I think you wanted to say something. Okay, Hertsmere first, please. You guys on my listing here? Yeah, okay, yeah, Councillor Sachdev.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I want to begin by recognising the significant amount of work that's gone into this document and the corporate plan. Our officers, cabinet and senior leadership team have clearly invested a lot of time in shaping a coherent framework for the borough. The structure is clear, the priorities are well defined, and the performance measures demonstrate a genuine intention to track delivery and accountability. That work should be acknowledged. The 4 pillars, growing opportunities, strong homes and secure futures, community equals place and delivering excellence, provide a logical and accessible structure for residents to understand where the council is heading and direction of travel. There's ambition here, as Councillor Newmark said, around regeneration, housing delivery, climate action, digital transformation, and that ambition is welcome. On the topic of ambition, though, I believe that there are some important areas that would really benefit from further strengthening. Firstly, while community safety is referenced, there's no explicit commitment to tackling violence against women and girls. We know that's been happening in practice with Councillor Nicholas, but as we know from her work as well, this is not a peripheral issue. It is central to whether women and girls genuinely feel safe in our borough. Secondly, there is no clear articulation of how we will address modern slavery or other wider forms of exploitation. As we promote inward investment, regeneration and housing growth, we must also be very clear about safeguarding labour standards, supply chains and vulnerable residents. Growth and protection must go hand in hand. Thirdly, as we modernise services and accelerate digital transformation, we should be explicit about accessibility, ensuring that residents who are disabled, digitally excluded, neurodiverse or otherwise vulnerable are not unintentionally left behind. These are not criticisms, they are reflections on how we can strengthen what is already a solid framework. A corporate plan should set not only operational direction, but also demonstrate our moral clarity about the risks facing our communities. For those reasons, while I appreciate the work behind this document, I believe it could benefit from further development to fully reflect these priorities. Thank you.
I shall call upon Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to draw your attention to a few minor changes that we're making going forward. The next full reporting year we will be bringing the key performance indicator reports to the operations scrutiny panel to allow a more in-depth discussion of the facts and the figures with more members, where we can do some deep dives into any issues that may be flagged. So I think it will pick up nicely, Councillor Sackdev, in what you're saying. There'll be more opportunities to feed into the process, take work away and develop strategies that may be a little bit weaker than they could be, or strengthen them where they need to be. Equally, I think on the digital transformation piece you talked about and not leaving anybody else behind, the investment that's been made into the White Hart pub in South Mims, there's now going to be a kind of tech and a high-tech hub, which predominantly is going to be there for school children to use, but I'm very keen to see weekend and evening use to be expanded to the wider community to upskill and train people to have confidence in going online and not being abused while they're on there. So there are some advantages there.
Thanks. Is there any other speaker? Okay, then what I shall do, I shall go over to Councillor Richards, because he reserved his right to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise to second the corporate vision and plan for Hertsmere. Note the years covered by the plan, 2026 to 2028, deliberately aligning with the period of time in which a new unitary is formed in the run-up to LGR. Yes, there will be a shadow authority in place from 2027. It may or may not comprise quite a few members of this chamber, which will make things very interesting. But LGR makes this more important, not less important. We want to leave a clear, lasting legacy, and this is the foundation for it. We were very clear that our to-do list needed to be consolidated and that business as usual must not be impacted over the next couple of years, i.e. we must avoid projects pulling us in different directions, and the pipeline, as Councillor Newmark hints, not just hints, very clearly stated, the pipeline of things to do will not get wider. Therefore, the strategic focus must stay aligned to the priorities outlined in this vision and this plan. And that is concise. You know, a vision is by its very nature concise. Sustainability means more than one thing here. And this is a golden thread in more than one of the strategic pillars. We act to leave a legacy for our current and future residents, community groups and businesses. I therefore commend the report and ask all here to support. Thank you.
Councillor Newmark, you will sum up the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not for the first time this evening, Councillor Cohen seems to have missed the point. And given that we're talking about technological innovation, it's clearly escaped his notice that the little lines on here are links that you can click, Councillor Cohen, and if you actually click on the link in relation to the statistic that you referenced as being county-wide, you will see that there is a complete breakdown, including the numbers for Hertsmere itself, showing the Hertsmere-specific affordable completions figure at 150 of that total number. The point's been made about realistic delivery. And look, at the end of the day, this is a document that's been drawn up utterly collaboratively between the Council's most senior officers and the Cabinet. It's the view of the Council's most senior officers that that is deliverable. It's the view of the independent LGA peer review team that this is deliverable. And what's more, we as a political leadership are absolutely determined to deliver it. And I think we've demonstrated that when we're determined to do something, it actually happens. I'd like to thank Councillor Sackdev for her constructive input. I'm really pleased she raised the point, in particular, about support for work on resourcing violence against women and girls campaigning. We have actually included in the budget specific financial provision for that work that Councillor Nicholas is undertaking. And as I said earlier, the new policy post will provide additional staff support for it as well. So we'll have campaigning resources and staff support. On the technology front, there is the White Hart Pub project that is now fully funded and being constructed as we speak, that will deal with some of the issues that she raised. And as we say very clearly in the point about values, we're always open to new ideas. So thank you for those new ideas.
Okay, members, are we ready to go for a vote? So this has been carried. Okay, we're going to move over to...
Before we do, we're approaching 10 o'clock, so I think we need to say members can we...
Yeah. Okay, this has been brought to my attention. We're approaching 10 o'clock. Are we willing to go up to 10:30 or something like that? Okay, look, I think we can go for a vote.
Can I say?
Okay. Yeah, please, 1 minute. Yeah, please.
Members, I also wanted to say that a part of extending to 10:30 is also determining which items that we want to take forward. Now, that of course is a matter for you, but what I would draw to your attention is that there is a business item still at item 10 which needs to be dealt with. It is also, obviously agenda item, I think it's 17, which is 17 how we normally wind up our open meeting, because we have another exempt item, an important exempt item where we're going to exclude the press and public, and I think you need to consider that within your compass as well tonight. Thank you.
And I think you forgot to make mention of 18, I think.
Yeah, that is number 18.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, so let's go for it.
Mr. Mayor, can I rise in view of the fact that our monitoring officer just made those points, and we've got a very, very important part.
Please turn your mic on. Oh,
it's a very, very important part to item which needs to be considered clearly at a good time, and it's already late, that we move to close this meeting for the guillotine and we can consider the part 2.
I've heard what you actually you are driving at. I was concerned. Yeah, Councillor Newmark.
Mr. Mayor, I don't completely disagree with Councillor Cohen. However, in addition to the business items that we have to report, I think given comments that were made earlier in this meeting, it would, particularly about the lack of time to discuss the audit report, it would be absolutely problematic if the reports of committee chairs, which includes the report from the chair of the audit committee, were not covered this evening. I think we will be failing in our fiduciary responsibility as members of this council responsible for its governance. So I think that we do need to stop wasting time now, get through as much of the agenda as we can before we go into part 2.
Can I suggest we reorder then, in light of your remarks, that we just do the committee chair reports and then bring on the guillotine?
We have to do item 10.
Where legally we have to do agenda item number 10. Okay. Yeah, then thereafter we'll see what is going to fall into place. Okay, thanks. Okay. Okay, we're into agenda item number 10. There's the decision report and treasury management strategy. The statement of 2026, 27, and prudential indicators of 2025, 26, 28, and 29. I will call upon Councillor Shenton to move the recommendations as set up in the report. Councillor Shenton.
Sorry. In the circumstances, I should be very brief. You've seen the papers. It's all there. The Council's Treasury Management Strategy has to be approved annually and was scrutinised by the Audit Committee that met on January the 26th this year. So I move the motion. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Newmark, can you second it?
I'm pleased to second this motion, reserve my right to speak.
Okay. Okay, this matter is now open for debate. Someone from the Conservative area. Oh, there's the other one. Okay. Okay, Herts first? Hertsmere first? No one. Okay. Councillor Giorgio?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to support this item for the Treasury Management Strategy and Prudential Indicators. In times of global economic volatility, proxy and tariff wars, the residents of Hertsmere look to this chamber to ensure we continue to provide the services they depend upon in our peaceful Shire borough. This report isn't just a collection of tables, it's the strategy this council will use to deliver upon our borough and protecting its people. While other councils across the country continue to struggle to balance their budgets, Hertsmere remains an oasis of sound fiscal management. Through our continued investment in our borough and partnerships with the private sector, we continue to maintain a balanced budget. This strategy enables us to increase funding for frontline services by maximising our investment returns safely. It also enables us to keep up with inflationary pressures whilst the national government restores the pay of our workers whilst reducing the cost of our energy bills by an average of £117 per year, according to the upcoming Ofgem changes. While the national government continues to make the UK the fastest growing G7 economy in Europe, we will continue to maintain the liquidity necessary to respond to emergencies should they occur. Looking at the over £82 million of investments table in Appendix 2, at an average of around 4.5%, it's clear that we are striking the right balance between investing where it matters, such as in all of the capital projects which we've already approved this evening, whilst ensuring that we do not sell out future generations to a lifetime of debt interest payments. I'd like to thank the finance team for their expert stewardship in the preparation of this strategy, and I look forward to giving it my support. Thank you.
Thanks. I shall call upon Councillor Newmark, since you reserve your right to speak.
I urge members to support the recommendations contained within this report.
Councillor Shenton, will you please sum up?
Thank you. I endorse that. Please support this report.
Okay, let's go for a vote then. It's unanimous. It's been carried. Okay, thanks. Okay.
Now we go to agenda item 13, report to the committee chairs.
Okay, now we're moving over to agenda item 13, reports of committee chairs. And there are 15 minutes provided for the committee chairs update and any questions arising. I will take the reports as read. Members, do you have questions to any of the chairs for standards, audit, and licensing in groups of 3?
So, point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, please. Yeah, I recognize you.
We haven't actually voted to extend the meeting. It's still before 10 o'clock, so guillotine, nothing has applied, and we should be with the order of the original agenda at this point. But we certainly haven't voted to extend the meeting yet, and we haven't voted to change the agenda.
Thanks for pointing this out. I will ask everybody whether folks want for us to extend it.
Do you want to vote? Does the Mouse's meeting want to?
Okay, look
at the main
what we're going to do is we can go for a vote on this issue, I think, with regards to the extension of the time.
Yeah, you can say, do we agree to extend to 10:30?
It's agreed. Okay, that's great. Then we can go up to 10:30 then. Okay, then we'll go over. Please.
Can I please now we've extended it, can I ask for the agenda to be reordered? Especially in 13C, that we move, as Councillor Newmark said, it's so important to report of the audit, chair of audit, and then we have the guillotine, then we stop the meeting.
Thanks.
We go to part 2, and we go straight to part 2.
Okay. That's the reason why we've moved over to our agenda item number 13 of the committee chairs.
Just cast
Yeah.
for the chair of the audit committee to report. Get the others.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. The chair of the committee, yeah, do you it was, I think, yeah. Okay. You look, okay, let me refer to the legal team here that is here to support me. I'll get back to you folks.
Members, you've clearly agreed to extend the meeting to 10:30. Is it the case that you've not agreed to change the order of business? Or is there a common agreement about that? No. No.
It's not change the order of business, it's to deal with items 13, 17, 18, and give it to the rest.
The constitutional amendment we moved earlier means that when we agree to go to 10:30, we'd indicate which items we want to deal with. Now, it clearly is a matter that the audit committee chair should be heard in his report. It's a question.
Sorry,
of
Mr.
what
Mayor.
else happens.
Mr. Mayor, it is the political leadership that runs this council, and we are not happy to set a precedent where we reorder the agenda. It's notable that we've wasted about 13 minutes in this procedural wrangling. I'm absolutely confident that we can get through the key items on the agenda, completing item 13 and dealing with the part 2 item if we just get on with the agenda, stop the filibustering, stop the faffing, stop the silent pauses, and let's just do the work that we're here to do.
I did put forth that we should go about with things and then, but you guys and then you all are mature people, and I'm not going to take a stick and start whipping people into submission. I hope that is clear, and I think so. So we agreed about certain issues. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we're going over to agenda item number 13.
Agenda item 12.
Okay. Agenda.
It's the order of business on the
Mr. Mayor, I believe that you've just moved to agenda item 12. This will not take very long at all, but there is an important element of my leader's report that I will...
Councillor Newmark, yeah, before you speak and then, yeah, get permission from the chair and then please sit down and then you can...
Mr. Mayor, I think you have a slightly mistaken idea of the way this council runs.
No, it's not. No, you have to... I'm chairing the meeting and then you sit down and you get permission from the chair, please. Yeah, Councillor Newmark, yeah, please. Yeah.
Speaks for itself. Yeah. Look, tonight's meeting falls shortly after the start of the month of Ramadan, and the reason that I did want to reach this item is that we haven't recognised that yet this evening, and I wanted to take this opportunity to wish the members of Hertsmere's growing Muslim communities Ramadan Kareem, and may your holy month be inspirational and meaningful. Your community plays such a key role in our local civic life, and that is why it was important that this occasion shouldn't have gone unmentioned this evening. It's also why I'm pleased to be able to update members that we're now very close to exchanging contracts and completing on the lease for the site of Boreham Wood's new mosque and community centre, the first purpose-built mosque in Hertsmere. I'm also pleased to update members that our joint work with Watford Council to develop a new cemetery site with Muslim community-specific plots, in addition to much-needed general municipal burial space, is moving forward in an effective manner. Our faith communities all require the infrastructure that they need to grow and to thrive, and these two projects will play an important role in achieving that objective. Mr. Mayor, in light of the time constraints this evening, in light of the bizarre lack of attention on the benches opposite to an important community cohesion message, I accept that we do need, as I said, to discuss important matters like the Audit Committee Chair's report. So I will truncate my Leader's report at this point and circulate a written addendum to members, but obviously, just so it's absolutely clear that I'm not seeking to avoid scrutiny and accountability, I am happy to address any questions that members may have.
Yes, Councillor, I think
Just ask if there's any questions.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? So, yeah. Okay, Councillor Smith, yeah.
Thank you. Will the leader explain how a seemingly commercial project diluting and undermining official Armistice Day and Poppy Appeal commemorations was able to publish and nationally promote material claiming the support of this council using our coat of arms and a message from the Mayor with his photograph?
Yes, Councillor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a very bizarre evening where we didn't go to the rest of the leaders' report, but we went with the leaders' report. And I know time is constrained. You know, we do have a really important item that we need to get to in part 2. It is getting late, and we know that we would be timed out regardless. So I will keep it brief. I will put online all the bits that I was going to talk about, which was mainly about planning, about HMOs that are really important to our residents, the White Hart Pub, congratulations for Hertsmere for the groundbreaking, and Bournemouth FC. They have their final on the 17th of March, and I hope everyone will go there to support them. Thank you.
Yeah. Does anyone else want to?
Questions now.
Yeah. Okay. She asked a question. We're in response to your. Yeah. Oh, Councillor Amber. Yeah. I think. Yeah, Councillor Amber. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a question for yourself, Councillor Newmark. As Hertsmere Borough Council falls under the statutory political balance rules, we should, I believe, have representation across all political groups on CMDP. Surely we should, as Caroline Clapper and myself are excluded, I'd like to know why, and surely we as a council should comply with the political balance requirements in UK local government law. I'd be interested in your remarks. Thank you.
Does anyone else has a question? Okay, yeah. In response to, yeah, Councillor Myers. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very quickly, could I ask the leader, did he raise the serious issues relating to the appalling treatment of LGBTQ+ people in Liberia during the recent visit of the Ambassador of Liberia to Hertsmere? And are there any other plans for other ambassadors to visit the borough? Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Councillor Newmark, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Smith, you asked if I could explain the fact that the Mayor's photograph, the Council's official crest and apparent endorsement appeared in a nationally circulated document seeking to promote commercial organisations on the back of Armistice Day and, more seriously, undermine the unique role of the Royal British Legion and the Poppy Appeal in that national commemoration. The answer is I can't. The answer is it's inexplicable. The answer is I find it disgraceful. And the answer is under our watch, nothing will be allowed to dilute the unique role that the Royal British Legion plays as the recognised representative of veterans and servicemen in this area. And however many photos of people in chains that might appear in an unauthorised way without following the correct protocols of the communications of this council may appear, it doesn't reflect our support for veterans, the Royal British Legion, and the way in which we will continue to commemorate Armistice Day. As I said, it is earlier, in another context, it is the political leadership of this council that takes decisions like that, and however pushy people may be, that is how it will remain. Councillor Amron, thank you for your question. I think there's a misunderstanding in terms of the scope of the Local Government Act stipulations in terms of political balance. political balance applies to the properly constituted committees of the council. It doesn't apply to panels, and CMDP is a panel. Obviously, in recent months, we have had an expansion of the array of opposition groups in the council, and I think different panels will take different approaches to how it reflects that balance and diversity. There was a conversation that took place, I think, 2 or 3 meetings ago of CMDP across all of the members, and it was felt that at this stage, because we have a designated role of principal opposition leader, it was felt that the principal opposition leader was more than capable of taking responsibility for liaison with the smaller opposition groups. So I say it's a new situation, having this larger number of opposition groups, and it's something that I'm happy to keep under review. But given the conversations we've had previously about the pressure on officers and servicing these meetings and so on, we do need to sort of keep an eye on how we can take decisions in the most efficient and effective manner, and that can't always be having the maximum number of people in the room all of the time, because ultimately reports come here as well, and that's where we take the decisions. Councillor Myers, thank you for your question regarding LGBTQ+ rights in Liberia. The conversational element of that meeting is something that was configured in a rather strange way, without proper reference to the protocols of this council. Random group leaders were invited to the conversational element of that meeting, and others were invited to the more ceremonial section afterwards. Therefore, there wasn't an appropriate opportunity for me to raise those issues. I am aware of the shocking treatment of the LGBTQ+ community in Liberia, and whilst I welcome diplomatic representatives of any nation to represent us here in Hertsmere and build strong links, those conversations must be conducted in an honest and open way, and we must not shy away from speaking up for oppressed groups around the world, and I will happily use any future opportunity that is appropriate to raise those issues and concerns. Currently, I don't believe there are any plans to welcome other ambassadors to the council itself. I was recently privileged to speak alongside the Deputy Ambassador and Charge d'Affaires of the State of Israel, who attended a well-publicised concluding meeting of the hostage vigil in Boreham Wood. And I believe that, although not an ambassador, the Mayor of Boreham Wood's twin town, Shoham, is due to visit the UK later this year, and she will, of course, be very welcome to join us here in Hertsmere. We have also had engagement with representatives of the Indian High Commission. I've met with the High Commissioner, but not at the Council, and that is a set of relationships that we hope to continue to develop in the optimum possible way.
Councillor Rani, have you got a question?
Mr. Mayor, I was gonna propose.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Yes,
1 minute.
I
After Councillor Rani.
was going to propose a motion without notice.
What is the status of the former police station site on Elstree Way that has been empty and derelict for some years? How is this an acceptable use of a public asset?
Yeah, Councillor Brisky.
Mr. Mayor, I was going to propose a closure motion under Council Procedural 15.11 that we move on to the next item of business.
Which is the chair of the
Which is the chairman's report.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, that's a procedural motion. There's a seconder for that.
It's up to the chair, according to the council procedural rule, to put it to a vote, but I don't think it says it needs to be seconded.
I'll rise to second it.
Any motion needs a seconder before it's before the meeting. Anyway, it's now before the meeting, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mayor, do you want to ask? Do they agree to that?
Yeah.
To the next item.
Okay. It's all in favor of moving, excuse me. Yeah, okay.
Those against.
Yeah. I would like to know who are against. They're saying, okay, we'll move forward. Yeah. Can I have silence in the chambers, please? We're moving over to agenda item number 13, with reports of committee chairs. There are 15 minutes provided for the committee chairs update and any questions arising. What I'm going to do, I'm going to call upon Councillor Shenton. Shaw, right? Pardon me.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have an update from that would be normally included in the report. I'll read that, then I'll talk a bit off-piste as well. So this is the update. At last night's meeting, the committee reviewed and approved the statement of accounts for 2024-25. It did so in the light of the report from the external auditor. Our Section 151 officer set out the background to these accounts. Staffing and capacity issues complicated the drafting of these accounts. They have required significant and expedited redrafting. The Finance Department's report to the committee went into more detail about this. The external auditors issued what is known as a disclaimed audit opinion. Sorry, Councillor Cohen, please have a listen. This is the first time you're going to hear this. You're not reading it again. Right. The external auditors issued what is known as a disclaimed audit opinion because some of the evidence they needed to issue an assured opinion is missing, or inadequate, or late. Their representatives confirmed that the first draft of the accounts were poor due to staffing and capacity issues rather than malfeasance. They explained to members the process for rebuilding and getting back to a full assurance. Now, we'll talk about that. It may take a couple of years, but it's there. The committee, as critical friend of finance officers and the council, generally expressed its dissatisfaction with this situation and concern at the background conditions, but accepted the lessons that have been learned from this. New processes are in place, and experienced and substantive staff have been brought in, and they will share their expertise. On that basis, the committee agreed to approve the 2024-25 accounts ahead of the government's backstop date, which is this Friday. Right. That is the basic facts, but there's a big story. And I'm first of all going to say I sadly like to apologise that the meeting was very rushed. We had an hour and I was 5 minutes late because I went to the loo. However, having said that, I think we got all the main points across, and we asked, the KPMG said malfeasance. We asked direct question, is there evidence of fraud in some of the misstatements? And the auditor was adamant that there was none. And on that basis, because we had no time, we had to approve the accounts. I'm very sorry that Councillor Sussman didn't get to ask. I did give her opportunities, but she said that there was a long list and she couldn't begin. But we did try to fit everybody in. Thank you.
Much. Okay, Councillor Sussman.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I really do appreciate the apology. I actually subbed for the meeting last night. And that was a really important meeting, and unfortunately the time scheduled for it meant that it wasn't just myself, but the gentleman who was to my left, who's the non-councillor representative on audit, he said he'd spent all weekend really going through it with loads of questions, and again he had no opportunity. And here we are approaching nearly 10:20, about to do exactly the same thing for what is actually an even more important decision. I'm absolutely exhausted. I'm not in the best of health at the moment. I'm really sorry, but I'm not prepared to stay and discuss such an important thing, more important than last night. It's just ridiculous. We could have been 20 minutes ahead of ourselves if people just read Councillor Newmark's report that he submits as his leader's report, rather than being able to plant a couple of questions just to upset and offend the mayor. And I'm sorry, but I don't know what the correct procedure is. I'm not prepared to stay for such an important meeting at this hour, and I propose that we adjourn it when it can have its full, the full attention of everyone. Thank you. At a sociable hour.
Okay, thanks so much. Okay, we're going to...
Any other questions for council?
Excuse me, pardon me. Is there any other question? There is any. Then we're going to move over to the next agenda item. Like what I said, and then we're going to move over to the next agenda item, number 14. That's a report of the scrutiny chairs. And there are 15 minutes provided to the scrutiny chairs.
Mr Mayor, can I reiterate what Councillor Sussman said? Yeah. This is what's happening from the Council. This should not have been on the agenda on budget night. Yeah. There is a convention, we don't have it. How can we have a Part 2 item so late at night? What will residents think when we're giving away or making decisions on millions of pounds of their money? My motion is we have an EGM like it should have been done in the first place to discuss this such an important matter, because they want to just push it through like they did with the Audit Committee last night. No time, it's far too late, you can't make considered decisions. If no members of the public would be, if they're in business, would go to business meetings at this time of night to make such important decisions. We are shareholders of this committee, of this EFS. We should not be making decisions at this time of night. We've already lost members because they're not feeling well tonight. It is too late to do it. As I would understand, I would ask what the auditors would think about what we're doing.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Members, as it is, no one agreed. We agreed to extend, but no one agreed to extend the order of business or bring particular items forward. So we are following the agenda items on the normal order of business, which means the next one would be the item for the report of the scrutiny chairs. Now, the guillotine is going to come down at 10:30, and it's going to come down on everything. So if you want to have a debate on the Part 2 item, then I think you need to move to that and agree that we continue until that item is concluded, which we can do under our amended rules as well.
Yeah, Councillor Newmark.
Mr Mayor, I propose that we move to start and complete agenda item 18.1, the Part 2 item relating to Elstree Film Studios. This is a tremendously important piece of work. Elstree Film Studios, as a functioning business, is entitled to clarity on this matter. The truth is that members opposite have been stirring up issues and trying to prevent this debate happening for a number of days. A very positive outcome is on the table. There is no contention or controversy around that outcome. It is not an item that needs to take particularly long unless people are minded to drag it out. We all receive allowances paid for by the public to do our job. The idea that a meeting might extend slightly beyond 10:30 really, in the real world, in the business world, is not something that's unheard of.
I would like to add something. There was no reason we had to talk about
is there a proposal? Are you making a proposal now?
I've made a proposal, and that proposal, as I understand it, is meant to be seconded and put straight to a vote. So please, can we follow the rules?
I'm seconding, Mr. Mayor.
I'm happy to second that. Is there any seconder?
Yeah, Councillor Gray, second.
Okay, yeah, Councillor Gray.
Okay.
All in favor. Excuse me. Can we show some show of hands and think all in favor? Yeah, please.
Mr. Mayor, point of order. There's a motion that's been...
Seconded, it goes to the vote.
Yeah, please, sir.
Thank you.
No, Mr. Mayor, point of order. We have a motion on the table that has been seconded and we go straight to the vote.
Councillor Gray, I suggest you go through the Mayor. He's already asked me to speak.
I addressed
No. I have not
recognized
recognized you. No, I recognize him to say. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
I'm appalled in the way this meeting has been conducted in this latter part of the evening, to be discussing things that are relative to what the Mayor did or what he didn't do in an earlier part, just to filibuster this part of the meeting. I will tell you now, I'm not staying beyond this part of the meeting to continue this discussion.
Thanks ever so much. You have made your point.
And I will be leaving as soon as the Mayor has concluded.
Thanks, you have made your point. We can go for a vote now. Yeah. Yeah.
Just to be clear, there is moved and seconded a motion to move to agenda item 18.1, which means the public will be asked to leave the meeting. We'll go into private session. If that is agreed, Mr. Mayor, can you call everyone who's in favour of that motion to show their hands, please?
Please show your hands. If they're everybody who has agreed. Yeah.
And those against? And those against?
And all of those who are against. All of those who are against this. Yeah, show of hands, please.
Can I question, please, is it appropriate that the chair of the board propose the item about it?
The vote.
I don't think it's appropriate that the chair of the board is proposing it. I know the public will.
Agenda item 18.
Okay, yes. Excuse me. We're moving over to agenda item 18 because it has been carried. Yeah. Excuse me. I think we propose to remove the public from here. Is it agreed? Okay. Yeah, so, madam, please.
Give a minute for the person up there to leave.
Yeah.